asking for your help in finding this child. He's listed as critically missing, 11-year-old boy again. His name's Angel Harbin. He was last seen on April 6th. That was yesterday in the 2500 block of Etheridge Drive Northwest. This is according to Atlanta police. Authorities say he is 5 feet 4 inches tall and weighs about 80 pounds. He was last seen wearing a matching blue shirt and shorts. Police say it appears Angel took off after his mother disciplined him for almost starting a fire inside of his bedroom, and it appears that he climbed out of a bedroom window and took off. That's according to authorities. So if you have any information on this missing child, please be sure to contact Atlanta police. The number is 404-597-0691. Again, 404-597-0691. We'll keep you updated on this story, and we have an update on the shooting involving Offset. We know that Offset was injured in the shooting, and now police have announced the name of the rapper arrested. So rapper Lil TJ was arrested, and former Migos member Offset was hospitalized yesterday following a fight and reported shooting outside a South Florida casino. So rapper Lil TJ, whose real name is Tion Jaden Merritt, was booked into the Broward County Jail following an incident at the Seminole Hard Rock Hollywood. So Merritt is charged with disorderly conduct, and he's facing several other charges. The incident began around 7 p.m. last night in a valet area of the casino. Police report that a fight broke out, and that led to the injury of Offset. And so while TMZ reports that Offset was shot, a spokesperson told the outlet that the rapper is doing fine and expected to recover here. And while officials confirm that Offset was taken to Memorial Regional Hospital for a non-life-threatening injury, the exact nature of the injury has not been detailed by police. It's also unclear what sparked the initial fight in the valet area, and police again detained one other person at the scene alongside Merritt, but that individual has not yet been charged. Investigators are still working to identify other people possibly involved in this incident. A little bit of the backstory here, and Offset's ties to the Atlanta area. Before finding his solo success, he helped turn the trio Migos into global stars from their home base in Gwinnett County. He was raised just minutes northeast of Atlanta alongside his cousin Takeoff and his uncle Quavo. The group changed hip-hop with hits like Versace and 2 #1 albums, and this latest incident comes more than 3 years after his cousin Takeoff was shot and killed at a bowling alley in Houston in November of 2022. But again, 2 people detained in the shooting for Offset. Rapper Lil TJ was one of those people, and he's facing a few charges here. We'll continue to update you on this incident as we learn more. Offset is expected to recover from this shooting. And let's talk about the shooting that happened earlier or late last night on Interstate 285. Actually, this happened overnight around 3:06 in the morning. DeKalb County Police responded to this person shot on I-285 South after Glenwood Road there. So the update that we received here is that this person has died. So officers found a man who had been shot with serious injuries on the interstate. He was rushed to a hospital, again, sadly died from his injuries later. Preliminary investigation suggests that the shooting happened parties, and a witness took the victim from the scene and called for help on I-285. Again, going back here through the new details we have in the shooting that happened overnight early this morning. A man, the victim here, the shooting victim here, has died, according to police. And investigators say this all started during an argument over in DeKalb County early this morning. Again, police saying they responded around 3:06 in the morning to Interstate 285 South, just past Glenwood Road. And that's where they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound. He was taken to the hospital with those serious injuries and succumbed to those injuries. Preliminary findings indicate the shooting happened again on Marbutt Road and it happened during a dispute between people who knew each other. So authorities say a witness took the victim from the scene to the hospital and called for help, and this investigation continues, and we'll be able to update you once we learn more about the shooting. Guys, let's talk about what Fox 5 News is working on today. We're going to bring in our Cal Calloway. He's our managing editor, and he has a look at some of our top stories that reporters are covering today. One that is very sad, Kyle, the spring breakers. They are from the Georgia area. They're from the Atlanta area. They went over to Florida, and they died in a crash. Can you talk about this?
Yeah, Jasmine, good afternoon. It is a sad story. Late this morning, a Christian school in Cumming confirmed for Fox 5 that 3 of their students died in this tragic accident. You're seeing some pictures that were supplied by the Florida Highway Patrol and the Franklin County Sheriff's Office in Northwest Florida. In their statement on their Facebook page, Horizon Christian Academy, again, that's located in Cumming, asked people to lift up the families of those 3 students and their friends in prayer. They're also asking for continued prayer for the survivor. According to law enforcement authorities, an 18-year-old driver who's from Alpharetta died in that accident. 2 passengers from Cumming, ages 16, 17, also perished in that accident. Medics were able to airlift the survivor, a 17-year-old passenger from Alpharetta, to a Tallahassee hospital. Ray Lorena of our staff is working on that story this afternoon. In Southwest Atlanta, Atlanta police are continuing their investigation into the shooting death of a 3-year-old young man from over the weekend. The young man, identified by police as Armani Lyons. Our Annie Mapp talked to the young man's grandmother this morning. The shooting happened on Easter morning at an apartment complex on Washington Road. You're seeing some pictures from that complex. She says Armani was with his 70-year-old babysitter, the same lady who's taken care of him for years when the shooting happened. Let's listen to what the grandmother had to tell Annie about her grandson.
Every time I pulled up, he'd just run out. He'd run to my car and say, "Grandma, Grandma." She used to be so happy.
Again, you can understand the emotion that grandmother is going through. We'll have more of Annie's interview with her this afternoon. And just a reminder, Atlanta police are encouraging anyone who might have information about this case to contact Crime Stoppers, where you can leave a tip anonymously. Now to politics in Northwest Georgia today, where there is a major runoff election. You're seeing video of the 2 candidates. On the left, you see Sean Harris. He is the Democrat. On the right, Clay Fuller, the Republican. They are seeking the 14th congressional seat office that was left vacant when Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned the seat in January. Now, this morning, we caught up with Mr. Harris in Rockmart, where he voted, and we also caught up with Mr. Fuller after he voted in Lookout Mountain. Let's listen to what they had to say.
The choice is clear. President Trump needs a fighter on Capitol Hill to move his agenda forward. Obviously, you know, the numbers in the House are very narrow. And the other tragedy for me has been that this district has been without representation since January 5th. So it's time to send a fighter for Northwest Georgia and the hardworking people here up to Capitol Hill and get that fighter up here to make a difference for the communities here in Northwest Georgia.
My connection is a connection of trust. We have a great relationship with everybody throughout the district, all 10 counties. We have went to every zip code, and I'm so proud that we actually did town halls all over the district, so we have actually talked to everybody. And when I say everybody, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans have came to my town hall and actually asked me the hard questions. And those questions have been answered. And that's why we have the trust of the people. And that is why you're going to see today.
Now, interesting aspect to this race, as they're holding this runoff election today, this is to serve out the remainder of the term, which will go through the end of this year. But there's still another election for the same seat in November, and that will be to serve the 2 years afterwards. So these 2 candidates conceivably could face each other again in November, possibly. Deidre Dukes is in Paulding County for us this afternoon. She'll have the latest on that race at 4, 5, and 6. And finally, some good news for Georgia drivers. The federal government has released some new information about impaired driving deaths and alcohol-related driving deaths. It turns out our state, Georgia, has the largest decrease of all states in the number of alcohol-impaired fatal car crashes. This afternoon, our Tyler Finger is talking to a father who lost his son in a traffic accident several years ago, who is now dedicated his life to try to make sure no other family has to suffer from what he's had to suffer after the death of his son. So we have those stories coming up on Fox 5 News this afternoon at 4, 5, and 6. Jasmine?
Cal, thank you so much for joining us to talk about what the reporters are working on today. Looking forward to see what they gather this afternoon. Cal, thank you. Guys, your time is 1:11. Let's go ahead and move forward and talk weather. Let's take a look at your spring break forecast.
Yeah, a warm afternoon on the way here for Metro Atlanta and North Georgia, hitting our high temperature later in the day thanks to the later sunset. So on our way to 75 here for this Tuesday. A little cooler tomorrow, 68 going to be your high temperature there. But then we are going to be warm once again to round out the week. Mind you, our average high is 71. We're going to talk more about those numbers here in just a moment. But first, also want to highlight that the chance of rain today and for the remainder of the week and on into next week is 0. And that's not the best news in the world because we do need the rain. The first result of that is the fire danger conditions we have today. The combination of the dry vegetation, the low humidity, and the winds will allow fires to potentially spread unintentionally, right? You never intend for the fire to end up in the neighbor's yard, in the neighbor's house, or anything like that. So outdoor burning not recommended today. The other result is that the drought monitor continues to not be good for the state of Georgia. So this is updated as of last Thursday. Happening today, they're going around taking new measurements all across the United States, but that includes here in Georgia. We're going to get an update to this map once we get towards this Thursday. But closer into North Georgia, do notice that you have really northeast Georgia from Lake Hartwell over to Athens up through Gainesville, Clarksville, Homer, Helen, Dahlonega, Blue Ridge, Dalton over towards Chickamauga, all in extreme drought. And then you've got severe drought along the I-20 corridor. That includes us here in Metro Atlanta. It goes up 75 before you run into that extreme drought area. Also still have extreme drought down in Upson County where they've been in extreme drought for quite a while. And of course, that extends down towards the Columbus area. When you add it all up, it's actually more than 85% of the state in Georgia that's in severe drought or worse. Way up to exceptional. Of course, the worst conditions are down to the south. That's going to be down south of Albany and the Valdosta area and extends down into Florida. What we need to put this to bed is 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain each week for 3 months. And we do not have that on the horizon, so do expect this to continue. So here you go today. No rain. 77 in Milledgeville, 76 in Covington, 75 over in Athens. This afternoon, 76 in Carrollton, and 72 up in Dalton. So expecting an above average day today. That's after a below average day yesterday and a right at average Easter Sunday. So as we fill in this calendar here over the next week, I expect a red day here, a blue day for Wednesday. We're going to be slightly below the norm, and then it's just going to be red from there on out. It's going to be somewhat reminiscent of how March was across the area. Not only is it going to be warm, but it's going to be dry. There's very little moisture in our air, which is why we're not getting the rain. That's also why we have that fire danger in place. So here's how it shapes up on the hour-by-hour computer forecast model. Sunny skies today here in the city. Through the overnight, do notice some cloud cover builds back in. Temperatures in the upper 40s and low 50s. Out in Augusta tomorrow, it's not going to be quite as sunny as it was today or is today across really eastern Georgia, but still a pretty nice day if you're headed out to the Masters. And then that's going to set the stage for another cool start for Thursday morning. Temperatures down in the 40s. That's the actual first day of the Masters tournament down there. So for tomorrow in Augusta, I'm looking for 67 as a high temperature, mostly sunny skies, a breeze out of the northeast at 10 to 15 miles an hour. 68 there for Wednesday, 72 on Thursday. Cool mornings, warm afternoons, very much the name of the game. We got record high temperatures in jeopardy Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. As of now, I'm not forecasting to break those records, but that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on into next week.
All right, Alex, thank you for that weather update, guys. Hope you get out and enjoy that nice weather. 80 degrees this coming weekend. I'm excited for that. When we return, we'll take a look at Masters Week. Our Buck Lanford got to go out there yesterday, and he has some treats for us. Welcome back, guys. Masters Week is underway. Many people are heading over to the Augusta area, which is my neck of the woods. People are heading to Augusta National Golf Club as the players and fans prepare for one of golf's most historic moments. The opening round of the 90th edition of the Masters Tournament begins on Thursday, with practice rounds already drawing crowds to the iconic course. And attendees, of course, are taking up the atmosphere, taking in the traditions and fan favorite food offerings ahead of the competition, along with watching top golfers prepare. Fans are also exploring new menu items and longtime staples. And guys, I am so interested in these new menu items. Fox 5's Buc Lanford got to try some of those items. Let's check in with him for the latest.
All right, what is it, 10:30? 10:30 in the morning? 10:30. These are my newest friends from Chicago,
Columbus, Ohio,
Milwaukee, New York City,
from all over the place here in Augusta. So first things first, I noticed we got barbecue sandwich, I see pimento cheese, there's that chicken salad, egg salad. I got to know, what's your favorite menu item? Not beer, but your favorite menu item.
I like the pulled pork with the pimento cheese on top.
Okay. Oh, you're mixing it up a little bit.
Yeah,
that sounds like a veteran move.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm the exact same. It's the best.
Who copied it?
I copied that.
Yeah, right. How about you?
The breakfast sandwich was awesome.
What's on the breakfast sandwich?
It was egg, sausage. I think they put bacon on there and cheese. It was delightful.
All right, let's hear it.
Southern chicken and biscuit, pretty great.
So nobody went with the classic pimento cheese or the classic egg salad. You tried them though, right?
Yeah, well, we tried them and then we just kind of altered them a little bit, doctored them up.
Yeah. I think what most people want to know though, what time do the gates open?
7.
And what time do they start selling beer?
7.
7, okay. What time did you guys start?
6:55.
A little pregame on the way. Okay. All right. So what drew me to your table was it's 10-20. That's a pretty good stack. Are you going to make a pyramid? What are we going to do with this?
It's going to be a beer snake. Come check in with us at 5, and you should be able to see it from the 16th hole.
All right. So strategy on practice round day. I mean, are you following a certain group? Are you going to camp on a hole? Are you going to sit here and drink beer? What are you guys going to do?
A little bit of everything. I think. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Who's going to win this year?
Let's go with the chalk of Scotty. Yeah.
Okay, the new father?
Yeah, the new father.
All right. How about you?
I'm going to go Rory, repeat.
Okay, Rory, repeat.
I think that sounds good to me.
All right. Rory?
I got to go Scotty too.
So we got two Scotties and 2 Rorys? All right. I'll drink to that. Yeah. Cheers. Who's going to have the most beer?
Well, I'm in the lead. Yeah.
All right, guys, so much fun there in Augusta. Again, that was our Buc Lanford trying some of those new food menu items, but longtime staples like the pimento cheese sandwiches, barbecue sandwiches, chicken salad sandwich is my favorite. It's there to stay, and their prices are pretty cheap, so that's something to keep in mind if you want to head that way to Augusta to view the Masters tournament. But yeah, we'll continue to follow that, and we'll see what happens on Thursday. That's when the actual tournament starts. Moving forward now, Ashlee Simpson has won Fox's The Masked Singer there. So last week, Ashlee Simpson won season 14 of The Masked Singer, and Fox 5's Alex Whitler spoke with her about her time on the show and what it was like being on the show with her husband. Let's take a listen.
Well, we started with 18 masked celebrity contestants, and it's been hard to get the last one standing. Out of my head, I want you out of my head. It was pop singer, songwriter, and actress Ashlee Simpson. She joins us now to look back on this season. Hi, Ashlee, congrats.
Hi, thank you so much. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm excited to see you. This was a fun season to watch because you and your husband were on. Let's just start with that. Did you guys, you had to know. You had to know.
We did. We knew because both of us, we got the offer, but we got the offer separately. And we were like, okay, this is a show that we watch with our family, and it just seemed like fun to do. So it was actually so fun for us to be doing it. And there was no way for us to really not know because there were moments at home where we're practicing our songs. But the thing is we could not see each other. We were not allowed to see each other, so we're on the same show, but we're just in passing.
Interesting. Okay, so did you get competitive at all with each other?
We aren't very competitive. I mean, both of us were like in this to have a good time. This show is, super family oriented and fun. You never know what day your mask is going to come off. So, I mean, for us, it was just a blast. And we both got really into it, into our characters. And he had a cute little hip movement. He had a little sway. And I think we just really got into that. I mean, there was only maybe a time or two that I was on the stage near him. And that was interesting. It was like, oh, he looks really cute over there. But we weren't like acknowledging each other, so it was so interesting, but
That's
super
hilarious.
fun to do together and to share those stories.
Yeah. Okay, so the costume, you seem like you lucked out. Yours didn't seem as difficult to maneuver. What'd you make of it?
What? My head was really heavy. I think just that part, like I always kind of had like a Harry Potter mark on my forehead when I take my mask off. My head was heavy, but I did luck out. I was able to move in my costume. There was definitely like little planets that would fall off here and there because I dropped to my knees a lot.
Yeah.
But I definitely had some bruises, but I definitely enjoyed dropping to my knees, and I was lucky that I was able to move around in my costume and really have a great time. For me, just putting that costume on gave me so much energy, and just becoming that character, it was a blast.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to talk about the show and like the strategy. Can you even have one, or do you just hope that people don't recognize your voice?
I think it's that. You like hope that people don't recognize your voice. You hope that when you get out there, I mean, for me, that first performance was so much fun because I think it was just like, all right, here we go, jumping into it. Do I see where I'm going? What am I doing? What's it going to be like? And, performing as an artist, you're used to seeing people and connecting with people. And I think it was just like a different art form of learning, like, okay, how am I going to connect to the audience doing these songs without physically seeing them? So it's about your energy and about filling the room with that and being able to like emotionally and like use your heart and be able to connect to them.
Okay, that's mind-boggling to me. I always thought that you guys kind of like a mascot costume, right? That like you would still see. You're saying that you couldn't?
I mean, you can see them, but it's not like you can see people and they can't see you. They see you as a character, so it's not like, oh, I know exactly the emotion she, so I think it was like, for me, really getting into the character and being able to be like, oh, this is what this song is about, and be able to like fill the room with that energy. And I think the second, like everybody that I worked with on the show, from like my voice coach to everyone that was doing my costuming, like everyone was so fantastic on this show that it just made everything so much fun. And the second I put the costume on, I just felt like I had a new fun energy, and I feel like Galaxy Girl was all about girl power.
Oh yeah, and I feel like your song selection portrayed that too. I mean, you had Chapel Roan, Paramore, Olivia Rodrigo. It seemed very on brand for you specifically, now that we know that that was you the whole time. But was that on purpose? Are those some of your favorite artists of today?
It was definitely about, I mean, I think the part that was on purpose was like using songs like strong feminine singers, and that was something that I definitely saw for Galaxy Girl, and they definitely fit with me.
Okay, so what's next for you, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, this has been such an amazing journey, and I mean, for me, it definitely gave me the bug of performing back. Definitely that part, and just to perform behind that mask was so much fun. And before that, I was doing Vegas shows, and then after doing more, and I have some shows coming up soon. I'll be at Stagecoach and at Pride in Los Angeles, and I'm just looking forward to being in the studio and making more music and keep going.
Yeah, well,
I'd love to do some theater as well.
Oh, everything. The sky is the limit. It really has been great to catch up with you. It was really fun, though. I can't stress enough to know that you and Evan were both performing. That was a nice little nugget.
That was fun. It was fun for us, too.
Great. Well, thank you, Ashley. We appreciate your time.
All right, such a fun story there. It's pretty cool that Alex got to speak with Ashley on her journey with a masked singer there. I hope you enjoyed that story as much as I did. Your time is 1:27. When we return, we'll take a look at some of our top stories. Welcome back. Let's get into a mix of both national and local headlines, starting with the war in the Middle East. Tensions continue to escalate here. President Trump has issued new warnings to Iran. In a post shared on Truth Social just moments ago, the president says, quote, "A whole civilization will die tonight if Iran doesn't meet tonight's imposed deadline," that deadline of 8 p.m. He's referring to Iran has already rejected a ceasefire proposal, saying it wants guarantees against future U.S. military action. And top defense officials say time is running out. This as diplomatic efforts continue through Iranian allies. So we'll see what happens here. We know that President Trump gave an update on the war yesterday, and then earlier today, he mentioned that a whole civilization will die tonight. We'll continue to follow this war and update you and see if anything changes. We know he pushed back this deadline one time, but he is saying that he is standing firm on his deadline of tonight at 8 p.m. for Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Moving now to a story here in the Atlanta area. A former federal correctional officer is heading to prison after a jury found him guilty of helping inmates run a massive drug smuggling operation inside the U.S. Penitentiary, Atlanta. So very interesting story here. A former corrections officer finding himself behind bars. We're speaking of Patrick Shackelford, a former plumbing supervisor at USP Atlanta. He was convicted of conspiracy and accepting bribes following a 6-day trial. Federal prosecutors say Shackelford he helped inmates James Hughes and another man, so 2 inmates we're speaking of here, use a sledgehammer and power drill to create passageways into a hidden room next to the visitation area. And you can see that on your screen, and that looks crazy, kind of like the show Prison Break. I don't know if you all have seen that before, but that's what this kind of reminds me of. Speaking back on the story here, the inmates created a small hole under a sink in the visitor's restroom. And every weekend, officials say, associates of the inmates would push packages of meth and marijuana through the hole. Shackelford then allowed the inmates to use their plumbing carts and tools as cover to move the drugs across the prison. He even let an inmate use an empty stall office, which became known as, quote, Jamie's office, to hide the stash. So let's talk about the numbers in this story here. The smuggling ring was uncovered in February of 2019 when officials searched the plumbing office ceiling, and they found over a pound of 100% pure meth, over a kilogram of marijuana, large quantities of spice and tobacco, several cell phones, and $5,000 in cash used to bribe Shackelford. What's next for this former corrections officer? He was taken into custody immediately after the verdict. He faces a mandatory minimum of 10 years in prison without the possibility of parole. And his sentencing is scheduled for this summer on July 20th. His 3 inmate co-conspirators, Patrick Kirkman, Mitchell Arms, and James Hughes, have all pleaded guilty for their roles in the scheme. So this is just an update here for you on this situation. He is spending time behind bars, sentencing set for July 20th for this former corrections officer. Let's talk about Lil Nas X now. So he is set to enter a mental health program. That's him on your screen. This is intended to help him. It's intended to help dismiss charges that he's facing, charges of him attacking Los Angeles police. Authorities say the rapper and singer was walking naked down a street in LA when he charged at police. And a criminal complaint says 3 officers were hurt during this incident, and he pleaded not guilty to 3 felony counts here of battery with injury of a police officer, along with 1 count of resisting. A judge says if he sticks to his treatment and obeys all the laws for 2 years, his felony charges will be dismissed. Again, he's entering a mental health diversion program to help dismiss these charges, and a judge has said if he sticks to this treatment plan, if he follows all the rules, then his charges will be dismissed. And let's talk about Savannah Guthrie. She has returned to NBC's Today Show. We know she's worked for that show, worked as a host on that show for several years, since 2012, and she stopped recently due to her mother's disappearance. So Savannah Guthrie returned to NBC's Today Show yesterday after a 2-month absence as the search for her missing mother continued. So Nancy Guthrie went missing on February 1st, prompting her daughter, Savannah, and longtime NBC host to step away from the network's flagship morning show. And that nationwide search for Nancy Guthrie has made national headlines, as you know, but so far it's only elicited few clues about her whereabouts or fate. It's been more than 60 days, guys, since Nancy Guthrie has been missing, and we don't really have much updates on her disappearance. We do know that Savannah Guthrie released an Easter message this past Sunday when she discussed her family's agonizing struggle and the universal feeling of dealing with unanswerable questions and the absence of a clear resolution. She said her perspective began to shift as she reflected on the period between Jesus Christ's crucifixion and resurrection, a span she described as often overlooked but central to understanding faith in moments of uncertainty. Nancy Guthrie is believed to have been taken from her home against her will and was last seen when her son-in-law dropped her off at a home around 10 p.m. the night before she went missing. In the early morning hours of February 1st, a masked man was seen on her doorstep and appeared to be armed with a handgun. Around 2:30 that morning, her pacemaker made its last sync with her Apple devices, indicating a potential time frame for when she was taken out of her home. Her watch and her iPhone were recovered inside. And a series of unverified ransom notes were sent to media outlets, including TMZ and a local Tucson station, leading many to believe the disappearance is somehow financially motivated, but no suspects have been publicly identified. Investigators and the family have repeatedly appealed to the public for help. There is a combined reward for more than $1.2 million in connection with the Nancy Guthrie case. $1 million of it is coming from the Guthrie family for their mother's recovery. The family has asked anyone with information to call 1-800-CALL-FBI. That is 1-800-CALL-FBI. And again, Guthrie has been a co-anchor of the Today Show since 2012. She returned yesterday after a 2-month absence. Guys, let's talk about what's trending on Fox5Atlanta.com. We're going to go ahead and bring in our Joyce Lupiani. She is a Fox 5 digital content creator. And Joyce, one story I'm not surprised that a lot of people are clicking on here, Delta Airlines increasing their checked bag fees.
That's right. So we found out this morning that Delta is going to join other airlines like JetBlue and United and increase their bag fees. So they're going up $10 for like your first and your second bag. So for bag number 1, it's like $35 to $45, and the second bag would be $45 to $55. But listen to this. The third bag, if you take 3 bags, that third bag is going to go up to $200. So they are really, really, trying to get people not to bring so many bags with them. And the airlines are basically doing this, because of the rising fuel prices. I mean, we're all paying a lot more for gas. And of course, they are having to pay a lot more to fly. And instead of raising the ticket prices. They are bumping up the extra fees like bags. Although, to be honest with you, I've been keeping an eye on tickets because I want to go see my grandkids later this year, and they have like definitely gone up in my opinion. So I think they're just kind of being raised all the way around.
This is a very crazy situation here as far as for travelers, that these prices are going up like this. And, you know, Delta Airlines is not the first one to increase their prices. We know United Airlines just did, you know, they're canceling flights now due to the jet fuel shortages and the increasing prices. They announced this week. So it's just something that travelers do have to pay attention to. It is just not a good situation for them, for travelers.
Unfortunately not. Well, the next story I have isn't really that good of a situation either if you like to take supplements. So there was a new health alert that was put out a few days ago by the FDA, and it's about these supplements called Adol XR shot, which is the liquid, and then the Adol XL capsules. And apparently both of these contain ingredients that aren't listed on the label. And some of these ingredients aren't even allowed to be in supplements. And the ingredients are basically stimulants that can cause, like, you know, shortness of breath all the way up to heart attacks. So, I mean, it could like be really, really dangerous. And you can buy these things almost anywhere. In fact, I did like a little Google search, and you can buy them at gas stations, places like CVS and Walgreens. You can buy them through Amazon. I mean, they're for sale like everywhere. So basically the FDA is like, you know, hey, these are really bad for you. So if you got them, you know, just throw them away. It's better not to take the risk with these.
This is pretty scary too here, and you know, for parents out there, definitely have to let their kids know to stay away from these. I'm just curious to know how these supplements make their way into stores, into gas stations, but hopefully no one gets their hands on them.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of these supplements are not really regulated, so who knows how they get on the market. Well, my last story is definitely a little bit happier. It makes me especially happy because I am a huge Buc-ee's fan. So there's a new Buc-ee's that's coming to Central Georgia, and they actually had like a little groundbreaking ceremony this morning. We weren't able to make it, but we did fly over it, so we have like some pictures of where it's going to be. It's going to be located in Monroe County, which is about 20 miles northwest of Macon. So it's like an hour and a half from Atlanta. It's going to open in like 2027. It's going to have one of the larger stores at like 74,000 square feet. I think the biggest one in Texas is like 25,600 something square foot. And there's going to be 100 gas pumps. And of course, you know, it's located right off the interstate. It's going to be located off of Interstate 75, you know, which a lot of us take when we're like headed, you know, down to the southern portion of the state. So we don't have an exact opening date. They just said like 2027, but hopefully we will find out, you know, a couple of months or so before it opens, and hopefully it's going to be towards the front end of 2027 and not the back end.
Exciting here. I mean, who doesn't love Buc-ee's, and just going is such a fun experience, and it's always so packed. So definitely looking forward to this new location. Joyce, thanks for joining us to talk about what's trending on Fox5Atlanta.com. Guys, let's move forward here. So our Chris Rosenthal is giving us an inside look at this private data center, and this is a pretty cool story here. Let's go ahead and bring him in so we can see for ourselves the center. Hey, Chris, how's it going?
Hey, how are you? So I am at the Eclipse Networks here in Dunwoody, and we usually think about data centers as being these huge, massive warehouses, and of course they are pretty controversial. But this one, I was kind of surprised when I showed up here today. It is just in basement of a typical office building, very nondescript, very very small footprint here. They serve smaller, clientele, small and mid-sized businesses here, and they got a tour today actually by Representative Buc-ee Carter and also the Public Service Commissioner Tricia Pridemore here came out, take a look and talk with them about their business. And we're going to talk about the business here. Actually, this is the kind of the brains of the operation here behind me, but I'm joined by Allie Lee. She is with Eclipse Networks. And first of all, tell me a little bit about what we're looking at here.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. This is the brains of the operation. So this is our private cloud data center. We started construction on this in around 2010 and completed in 2012. So if you're a partner of ours, this is where your information is hosted. This is where all your data is stored safely and securely.
And securely, I mean, talk to me about that. What are some of the concerns out there?
Yeah, I mean, there's physical security, right? So this is where, you've got to have security, right? Cameras, locks. We've even got a fingerprint lock on our data center here. But more often what you hear these days is about cybersecurity, right? So how are we protecting your data from the outside in, from what we call bad actors in the industry, which are really just the cyber criminals. And there's threats all over the place. There's threats to your physical data. There's threats to your business. And a lot of times what's happening nowadays is people are, these bad actors, they're getting in through stealing a token, for example, and then they sit and they wait and they don't do anything. They don't upload malicious software. There's no ransom happening. They're just kind of waiting to see how you're interacting on a daily basis. And say, for example, you've clicked a link in your email, and the next thing you know, you go to make your transfers for payroll, and the money goes to offshore accounts, and you say, wait a minute, what's happening here? That's one of the most common things that we see. So a lot of times it's not even ransom anymore. It's just flat out theft. And having that cybersecurity and having those monitors in place is something that Eclipse Networks does extremely well.
This is a data center. People, talk about data centers. They're worried about data centers, controversial. How does this compare to kind of what we normally think of as the big warehouses?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. People think the big warehouses, 8 football fields long. There's a couple of them here in Metro Atlanta, and they're kind of cropping up everywhere. What we've built is something very small scale to that. So, I mean, even just in size, you can tell it's much smaller than what you would typically see with one of these big data centers. But really what we've done is we've taken that and we've brought it down to where small businesses and medium businesses can utilize this on a budget. And we're using a third of the power, or even less than that, of the power of some of these larger data centers. So we've really brought all the positive of having cloud storage, safe, secure storage, and just made a little copy that's smaller with a less impactful footprint.
Gotcha. Now, you guys got a tour, gave a tour today to, like I said, to Buc-ee Carter, and I talked with him about just why he came out here today and why it's important that they combine forces with or work together with the government and these data centers here. So let's take a listen.
I wanted to see a homegrown business, a Georgia-grown business, and this is a perfect example of this, working in an area that's extremely important in the future in AI and making sure that people have the coverage that they need. And this is a system that's located here in our area, not overseas. And that's extremely important as well. I'm a big supporter of President Trump trying to bring manufacturing back to America. I want it to come to Georgia, and that's why I'm glad to see a Georgia company doing so well like they are.
When you come here and you see it firsthand, what's your takeaway?
Well, I'm very impressed. Very impressed with the technology that they have been able to assimilate here, and that they've been able to offer to their clients and to their customers. It's extremely important. I mean, let's face it, AI is a part of our lives today, whether we want it to be or not. And it's and for a lot of people, they don't have the knowledge that they need to navigate this area, and this company offers that.
He talks about some of the security risks and something as a congressman you're very aware of. I mean, how does that all kind of tie together?
Well, it ties together importantly because I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee. We talk about this quite often, the fact that we've got to have private-public partnerships and sharing information. When you see something, say something. And it's important for companies like this to share that information with the government so that we can anticipate what may be coming in that area as well. And vice versa. It's important for the government to share information with the private sector.
Yeah, again, that cybersecurity element of this is very important. I mean, that's a $5 billion a year revenue industry here in Georgia alone. And so, this company here, smaller company, about 30 or so employees, but they're always looking for talent. Those jobs, whether they're here or other companies, they're out there. So, again, here in Dunwoody, back to you.
Chris, thank you so much for showing us this data center here and also addressing the security concerns or the concerns that people have about data centers in general. We'll check in with you a little later. Guys, your time is 1:48. When we return, we'll continue to talk about some positive stories here on our live stream. Hey guys, welcome back to Fox 5 News Live. I have Tom Haynes here with me. He's going to talk about what's trending tonight on the Pulse.
You know, Jasmine, or should I call you Jazz?
You can call me Jazz. That works.
All right. Did we have a nickname when we were little? Did people call you Jazz, Jazzy, Jasmine?
Yes, I did have a good bit.
What was your childhood nickname?
Okay, I would say Jazz.
Okay, Jazz?
Yeah, I would say that.
All right.
That's one of them.
I was Tommy when I was a kid.
Oh,
not
Tommy. It reminds me of the little Rugrat.
Not Thomas, but Tommy. So if you've known me a long time, and I mean a long time, I would be Tommy, not Tom, my TV name. But tonight at 7, we're going to talk about nicknames, if we like them or not, or if we had one when we were a kid. I gave you a little preview. Guess I gave it away, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But we're going to reveal, our childhood nicknames and talk about if you had a nickname when you were a child. Family and friend nicknames are part of our everyday life. They often start as inside jokes, childhood memory. My brother, I was the youngest of 5.
Okay.
So all my brother's friends were, so much older than me. I was the little kid, the little runt running around. They called me Spike.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
That was my other childhood nickname, Spike. You know why?
No, I
Because
don't.
my hair was always
Spiky.
kind of like that when I was a kid. So join us tonight at 7. You know, you can watch The Pulse every night at 7 o'clock, of course, right here on Fox Local, or you can watch on the Fox 5 broadcast channel on Fox 5. And we always want your comments. We want you to weigh in. You can go to fox5atlanta.com/pulse. Drop some of your comments, and of course, we read them every night on the air at 7 o'clock. Jazz, we'll see you at 7?
All right, that sounds good, Tommy.
Okay.
All right, guys, let's move forward now to a different segment here. So we know that Chef David Rose, he had a new series there, and this aired a little bit earlier today, but let's check in to see what this is about.
And the green beans are nice and hot now.
I love it. It smells great, and it's all about, again, those contrasting and complementary flavors and textures where you have that soft, seared green bean and now that crunch from the almonds. We're making haricots verts avec almondine. French.
Right. A little bit of black pepper.
There we go.
And add that to it.
Go, Monty. Show them how it's done. Show them how it's done.
Yes.
When it comes to home cooking, no one does it like Grandma. Isn't that the truth? And a new YouTube show is featuring the masters of the kitchen. Cooking with Your Grandma highlights the recipes, the stories, and what makes each bite truly most delicious, the family connection. This morning, we're joined here in the Good Day Kitchen by Chef David Rose and his sous chef today, Chef Grandma Bonnie Brewer, a.k.a. Monty. And what are we cooking here today? If I could tell you guys, it smells heavenly.
Intoxicating, right?
Oh my gosh. What do we have?
All right, so this dish right here, Bonnie was so gracious to teach me and let me into her world. So Bonnie, you want to give some context to the dish before I go into it?
Well, it was a recipe that I've used for 23 years. Someone gave me this chicken to help me recover from breast cancer 23 years ago.
Wow.
Exactly.
So I've been using it for 23 years, this recipe.
Yes.
And I just call it Wendy Price chicken, which she's the person that gave it to me 23 years ago.
I believe that this would be healing, just by the way it smells, and it looks incredible.
So I don't want to give away too much. So this right here, this is not Wendy Price's chicken. You got to watch the YouTube show for that one. This is Grandma Bonnie's chicken. So this right here, beautiful chicken, and this is Bonnie's chicken fried chicken. So let's get into it.
Okay.
First things first, we have this beautiful breading. Let's show them the breading real quick. So we have rich breadcrumbs. Rich are delicious. They're buttery. They're amazing. They're super flavorful.
Yes.
We're gonna add this to the breadcrumbs we have right here, Italian breadcrumbs. We're gonna add our seasonings, salt, pepper, paprika, onion powder, garlic powder. And then this is what really inspired me with this, the rosemary. Okay. So what you wanna do is you want all that beautiful breading, that flavorful, delicious breading to adhere to the chicken. So Bonnie's gonna show us the 3-step breading process. Go right ahead, Bonnie. Show them how it's done.
All right.
Bonnie's a pro, so I'm gonna let her show you.
23 years of experience. You know what you're doing over here.
She knows.
Well, in another life, I used to be a caterer, too.
Oh, okay.
She's had like 3 different careers, a caterer, car salesman, and now just amazing actress in so many different movies, TV shows.
Wow.
Bonnie's literally living her best life and killing it.
I am.
Yeah. She is.
I am. Grandma, right?
Right. And I have 5 grandchildren.
Oh, and I bet they all love this.
They all, yes, they do.
What you're gonna do is really seal all that delicious breading into there. All those nooks and crannies.
So we dredged it in a little flour.
Flour's gonna be
flour
the glue.
first, and then back into that buttermilk.
Yes,
and
that's
then
a buttermilk marinade.
And then here into the skillet.
I know we're gonna get a sizzle right now.
There you go. If your food's not sizzling, it's not bubbling, and that snap, crackle, pop, pan's not ready. So you see, Bonnie's a pro. So you let that go. We butterflied those so they cook quicker, because sometimes Grandma wants to eat, Grandpa wants to eat, and the grandkids want to eat. Thinner, better, crispier, and juicier.
Right.
Okay.
A little less cook time.
A little less cook time. So this right here, about 3 to 4, maybe 5 minutes on each side, and bam, you're eating. So with this, you want to have your garlic mashed potatoes. We have some asparagus, jumbo style, because we do everything big in the South. A little bit of garlic right there, and we have our sauce, which is a sauce of mushrooms. You hit that with a little bit of chicken stock, like so. a little bit of Dijon mustard, like so. And then a little bit of heavy cream.
Oh, that's the secret
And you
right
yeah, because you gotta have that dairy in there. You let that simmer, you let that reduce, and what you're looking for when you're done, thick, savory, beautiful gravy. A little thicker than that, but if you look right here, that's what we're looking for. You see the pops of mustard in there, a little bit of parsley to finish it, and that is south in your mouth, and that's what cooking with your grandma is. Love,
now,
connection,
this is what I'm talking
unity.
about.
You could just have that whole bowl of mashed potatoes
for
yourself.
me.
But this is a dish. I thank you so much, Bonnie, for inspiring me, and this is what really brings everybody together.
Yeah.
In this world of, such division we're living in right now, we need a little more, unity. And food is the worldwide global table that brings us all together. And you smell the chicken. As we were walking in, it was like Pepe Le Pew in the cartoon Looney Tunes. Your nose led you
These eyes
to the
have
kitchen.
hearts in
Eyes
them.
got big. And that is what food means. Love, deliciousness, flavor, and smiles, happiness.
And I love that on your show you really showcase this is about family and those family recipes that we really crave, especially when we need a little bit of home cooking or a hug from grandma or
100%.
mom, and that's what this is all about.
100%. So we're excited. May 24th, set your calendars. YouTube, go to cwgshow.com. Follow us on Instagram, Cooking with GMA, GMA. And it's going to be an amazing time. And Bonnie, her recipe, phenomenal. Stories even better. So we're super excited to share that with everybody.
No, this is just wonderful, and we can't wait to first of all dig in, but second of all to watch the recipes look amazing, but even better the stories behind them. So thank you both so much for joining us here, and thank you for making my lunch.
Yeah.
We've got Cooking with Grandma premieres Sunday, May 24th, just like Chef David said. It's going to be on his YouTube channel, so you can catch it there. Certainly something you do not want to miss.
Smells and looks so good. Well, I can't smell it. It looks like it smells good. But thanks for joining our live stream. The news continues at 2.
Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here at 2 o'clock on your Tuesday afternoon. It's great to see you. I want to start with some news we're following in the newsroom. We've got a lot to talk about considering the war in Iran with the president's deadline quickly approaching at 8 o'clock this evening. Also want to talk about what we're seeing regarding the latest news here in the Atlanta metro area. So one story I want to draw your attention to involves a critically missing child. Police are looking for an 11-year-old. Take a look at your screen. This is Angel Harbin. Police say this person is critically missing, last seen April 6 on Etheridge Drive Northwest wearing a blue shirt and shorts. He was seen in the 2500 block of Etheridge Drive Northwest, and police say he's 5 feet 4 inches tall, weighs about 80 pounds, and was last seen a matching blue shirt and shorts, and that it appears he took off after his mother disciplined him for almost starting a fire inside of his bedroom. They believe he might have climbed out of a bedroom window and ran away. So if you have information on this child's whereabouts, they look familiar to you, contact investigators immediately with the Atlanta Police Department. You can do that at 404-597-0691. So we'll continue to keep you updated as this story progresses. But in the meantime, I want to continue with something that we're following here in our newsroom. 3 Metro Atlanta teens, we're learning, have been killed in a car crash on spring break, while on spring break in Florida, and our Ray Llorena is working to get the latest information. So Ray, this is an absolutely tragic situation. Can you tell us what we're learning about these 3 high schoolers?
Ariel, this morning we got confirmed from Horizon Christian Academy, that's in Cumming where we are right now, that all 3 teenage students who died in that crash were in fact students at this academy. And throughout the day we've seen some school administrators here on campus, and the facial expressions, the best way I could put it, have been long and tearful as they mourn these students. But here's what we know. We do know that 3 teenagers were killed, and 1 had to be airlifted while they were on a spring break trip in Florida, specifically near the Florida Panhandle in Franklin County. That 1 teenager was airlifted to a hospital in Tallahassee. We spoke to Franklin County, Florida Sheriff A.J. Smith earlier today. He says for an unknown reason, the Jeep the teenagers were in crossed over the center line before it crashed head-on into a tree on Highway 65. He says the girl who was airlifted to the hospital was pulled out of the wreckage by people who were driving by before it caught fire. The names of the people who died have not been released by Florida Highway Patrol. The surviving teen was first listed as being in critical condition, but the sheriff says she is doing better and recovering in Tallahassee.
Even though we don't know them, we feel connected to them because they were here in our county, and they were, coming here to enjoy our beach and looking to have fun and enjoy their spring break. So we're all heartbroken about it, and we just hope that people will keep the families of all these kids in their prayers and continue to, pray for the young lady that's recovering.
And school officials say that their chapel that's on campus was open last night to give these students on campus and their parents a chance and a place to grieve with privacy. They say they're also working on additional ways to help support their students, their parents, and their staff in the coming days as they come to grips with this tragedy. And the city of Cumming, they also say that they will be lighting up the tower that you see on Georgia 400 on exit 14 in navy blue and gold. Those are the school's colors tonight and for the next few days in honor of the students' memories. Ariel.
Ray, horrible situation, going on spring break, thinking about having fun with your friends, and this tragedy is what came upon them. So as we learn more information about how the community can get involved and pay their respects, we'll keep you updated here on Fox Local. Anything else, Ray, you're learning about these victims or their families at this time? I believe you said that maybe identities haven't been released just yet. Did I hear you correctly?
Yeah, you heard me correctly. Yeah, we still don't know the exact ages. We don't know the exact names of these students. We do know their ages at this point, but we still don't know a whole lot of them. But I have been scrolling Facebook trying to see how parents are taking in the news. A lot of them responding under news clips of the initial incident that happened yesterday over in the Panhandle stations that cover the Panhandle. And there's a lot of sorrow and there's a lot of grief being shared online. We haven't seen any sort of memorial being built out yet in the front of the school just yet. We don't know if that's going to change, but there is definitely a lot of mourning that is going on. Cumming Police also recently put out a post on their Facebook saying that the school resource officer that is assigned to this school, that school resource officer is also in mourning, has been hurt by this tragedy. So definitely there is a lot of hurt right now coming out of Cumming, Ariel.
Ray, thanks for letting us know where we stand with this so far. And as we get any new information, we'll let you guys know right here on Fox Local. But Ray, I'll let you get back to gathering some information. Thank you so much for joining us live. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, I want to keep you guys updated on a story we first brought you early this morning that was breaking news. A man who was shot along I-285, we've learned, has now died at a hospital. Police say that there was an argument in DeKalb County that led up to that shooting early this morning. The officers responded around 3 a.m. to Interstate 285 South, just past Glenwood Road in DeKalb County. That's where they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound in his car. He was rushed to the hospital, but we are now learning later died. Preliminary findings indicate that shooting happened in the 5500 block of Marbut Road during an argument between people who knew each other. Authorities say a witness transported the victim from the scene to I-285 and called for help. Absolutely crazy to be thinking that you could witness something like this and then jump into action to try to save someone's life. So we'll keep you updated as we learn any new details about that. But I want to keep you updated on something absolutely heartbreaking, a story we've been following here closely at Fox 5 Atlanta, and it involves a 3-year-old child who died early Sunday morning after being shot in an apartment complex in southwest Atlanta. Now, this happened Easter Sunday, and our Annie Mapp has been speaking with family, trying to get a sense of what happened. Annie, heartbreaking situation.
Just a very heartbreaking story, Ariel. We know 3-year-old Armani Lyons lost his life early Sunday morning during what police say was a shooting at his babysitter's home. His mother tells me that she had dropped him off at the babysitter while she was at work. This is a babysitter where Armani had been going since he was even younger than 3, so she felt comfortable taking him there. But unfortunately, she did get that devastating news from Atlanta police early Sunday morning saying that her son had been shot. She says she obviously left work, went to the hospital, and then was given that heartbreaking news that her son did not survive those gunshot wounds. So as of now, Atlanta police has not arrested anyone in the shooting. We know they did question that 70-year-old babysitter who was supposed to be caring for the 3-year-old. But again, no arrests have been made. It's unclear whether other people were inside the home while she was babysitting Armani, but we are working to learn more information from Atlanta police. I did get to speak to Armani's grandmother this morning. Take a listen to what she said.
Every time I pulled up, he'd just run out. He'd run to my car and say, "Grandma, Grandma." She used to be so happy. This happened. Like, I can't believe somebody would do this to him. Like, why?
Yeah, just very heartbreaking. Atlanta police are asking anyone who has information in the shooting to please come forward. There are always ways to submit a tip anonymously as well through Crime Stoppers. Ariel?
Annie, this is a story that absolutely just hurts your heart. Innocent baby caught up in gun violence. No reason that this should have happened. I understand there are a lot of questions in the community about what is unfolding. Police had said that it seemed like people were inside that apartment, but we're not sure whether or not it was someone inside who pulled a trigger or whether someone outside. Have you gotten any indication at all, or are police just staying tight-lipped while they investigate at this point?
Yeah, there are still a lot of details that we don't know, again, such as who was inside that apartment complex when this shooting took place. As you mentioned, Ariel, we don't even know if the shooting actually happened inside the apartment or if this is a case of someone that was possibly firing shots outside and bullets traveled into the babysitter's home. So there's still a lot of questions that we haven't been able to get answered from police. I did speak to the mom. She says she hasn't even heard from the babysitter since this tragedy happened. So we're still waiting. Hopefully soon we will know more information.
Annie, one other final thought that comes to mind as well is just the fact that a lot of parents have to make ends meet, you know, and so this parent dropped her child off with a 70-year-old babysitter. I see some people in the comments asking about that. The babysitter was 70 years old, and I want to clarify that babysitter different than the child's grandmother. The child was not dropped off with his grandmother. It was someone separate.
Correct. The child was under the care of a babysitter that is not a relative, I'm told. This is someone who the mother explained she had been taking her child to now since he was even younger than 3 years old, ever since he was a baby, and she says she never had any issues before. So she was just shocked to get this news from Atlanta police on Sunday morning. Again, she says she hasn't even heard from the babysitter since this tragedy happened.
Annie, devastating. We'll continue to stay tuned as you get any new information. I'll let you keep information gathering. We'll see you again this evening. Annie Mapp, thank you so much. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, you guys, let's talk about another story that we're following here in the newsroom, because a deadline is looming, and that's as we shift our focus here from locally in Atlanta to the global stage. We're going to talk about the war with Iran, because right now President Trump has given an 8 p.m. deadline for Iran to accept a type of ceasefire deal. Now, American airstrikes have pounded targets on Iran's Karg Island early this morning. And one of the things that President Trump has said is that Iran must, quote, fully surrender and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. And just a few hours later, the president issued a new warning, writing in part, quote, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. I don't want that to happen, but it probably will, end quote. Pentagon officials say the Karg Island airstrikes were meant to send a message to the Iranian government, but it's not clear if that's going to work. On Monday, Iran rejected the latest ceasefire proposal, leaving diplomats scrambling to get a deal in place before the deadline. Meanwhile, preparations for major airstrikes are underway in Tehran. Officials are urging civilians to form human chains around power plants in Iran, and Iran's president says 14 million people have volunteered to fight. The deadline, like I mentioned, is 8 p.m. Eastern tonight. That's when President Trump says he'll start bombing Iran's bridges and power plants. But in the meantime, leaders in Qatar are calling on partners in the Middle East to end the war. They say the war is causing economic shock, disrupting air travel, and threatening global supplies of oil and gas, as well as now threatening the global food supply because fertilizer is now facing shortages since it cannot get through the Strait of Hormuz. Take a listen to what Qatar leaders are saying.
There are a lot of dangers to that happening when it comes to food security, when it comes to water security, when it comes to environmental security, that we are still at the threshold of all of these challenges, and we hope that we can remain there and we are able to walk back from there to a more safe environment. But obviously we are quite concerned with all that is happening right now, and I won't go beyond that, just to say that we are all waiting for what's going to happen the next a couple of hours, and we are supportive, of course, of the efforts of Pakistan and the other mediators in finding a resolution to this before it escalates beyond anyone's control.
So you were hearing there from a Qatari official. But in the meantime, Vice President J.D. Vance says he believes President Trump is going to get a response from Iran by tonight's 8 p.m. deadline. He spoke alongside Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Budapest, Hungary today. Take a listen to what the vice president had to say.
Still some things that we'd like to do, for example, on Iranian ability to manufacture weapons that we'd like to do a little bit more work on militarily. But fundamentally, the military objectives of the United States have been completed. So that means, as the president has said, very shortly this war is going to conclude. The United States has the ability to extract much greater economic costs on Iran than Iran has on an ability to extract costs on us or on our friends in the world. So I hope that they're smart. The president has set a deadline for about 12 hours from now in the United States. We're going to find out, but there's going to be a lot of negotiation between now and then, and I'm hopeful that it gets to a good resolution. The president's deadline has been followed by us and everybody else, and he said very clearly, we're not going to strike energy and infrastructure targets until the Iranians either make a proposal that we can get behind or don't make a proposal, but he's given them until Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So I don't think the news in Carg Island represents a change in strategy or represents any change from the President of the United States. He continues to say the deadline is 8 o'clock. The Iranians were not the fastest negotiators before the war started, and they are certainly not the fastest negotiators now. So we recognize there's some delay sometimes in transmitting messages from one person to another, but we feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. They've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
Well, in case you're curious about why Vice President J.D. Vance was in Hungary, he was showing support for Hungary's leader, Viktor Orban, who's trailing in the polls in Hungary. The country's election is going to be held Sunday. Now, let's continue talking about the effects of the Iran war, because it's no doubt at this point that Americans are helping to fund the war with some of the additional costs that are being incurred. Let's talk about how and why, because the ongoing conflict is increasing costs to secure and ship oil, and it's now filtering to all other industries. Americans are feeling it, from plane tickets to shipping packages, fuel for cars and diesel for trucks, to the price to put food on the table. One thing that we're taking a look at as we see the effects, the U.S. Postal Service has a time-limited 8% adjustment for shipping packages to ensure the actual cost of doing business are covered. FedEx is adding a 26.5% freight fuel surcharge, which is subject to weekly adjustment. And since January, the United Parcel Service has added a surcharge to its domestic and international ground and air deliveries. So we're seeing a lot of carriers essentially shift their costs onto the consumer with what they are facing in terms of elevated oil prices. It's been fluctuating between 20 and 27% when we take a look at those surcharges that USPS has been adding. Amazon also announcing April 17th a 3.5% fuel and logistics-related fee for third-party sellers due to rising crude oil prices. Now, crude oil is the lifeblood of the American economy, and this is according to Severin Borenstein. He's director of UC Berkeley's Energy Institute at Haas. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Of those goods. All of these are going to start to raise prices, and that starts to show up.
Now we need to be watching this very closely. We know that jet fuel is the #1 expense for any airline. That has been the case for decades. So obviously something like this, the impact of this war, is something we're going to be watching very closely.
This does, however, suggest that they think that the high jet fuel prices are not going to disappear anytime soon. Oh, there's no question that if the war drags on, we are going to see a major economic hit from this.
So you're listening to him, the professor, speak a little bit about what the effects of the war could be like on a global stage because of these rising gas and oil prices. So we talked a little bit about gas and oil prices and how it's increasing shipping charges that consumers are paying for. Let's talk a little bit about air travel fuel costs, because this is another area we're really seeing the effect. At this point, here's how the effects are being driven. Airlines are now having to cancel some flights because of a jet fuel shortages that are happening as a result of the war. Multiple airlines are announcing these flight cancellations because of jet fuel shortages and rising prices. United Airlines is the first major U.S. airline to cancel flights. It's going to cut 5% of flights from April through September, mostly during off-peak hours, overnight red-eyes, and midweek schedules. But cancellations can affect different airports differently. Larger airports have an advantage because they have many flights going to the same places. But for smaller airports, flights, there could be real problems if the airlines decide it's not a priority. And we were hearing just a bit ago from the professor at UC Berkeley's Energy Institute that this is something that we're going to be watching very closely. He said that we know jet fuel is the #1 expense for any airline, and that's been the case for decades. So the impact of the war is something they're going to be watching very closely. But it's no question that if the war drags on, we're going to continue to see a major economic hit from this. And it's not just domestic flights, in case you're curious. Scandinavian Airline says it'll cancel 1,000 Nordic region short-haul flights. Air New Zealand is canceling 1,100 flights, about 5% of its overall trips. With fewer seats to sell, ticket prices go up to cover the costs of jet fuel and other things that the airline must cover. The cuts mean remaining flights available are also going to go up, and the timing. We're approaching summer, which is the peak travel season, so it's really going to affect a lot of airlines' budgets. I want to talk a little bit about Delta because we learned just today as well, Delta is now increasing bag fees, checked bag fees to be specific, because of rising fuel costs. Delta Airlines says that they're facing financial pressure because of rising fuel prices, and this is really going to apply to checked bags on domestic and select short-haul international routes. Delta says it's increasing its checked bag fees by $10 to $50. And so as we take a look at this, one thing to keep in mind is that if you buy a ticket on Delta Airlines tomorrow and onward, you're going to pay $10 to $50 more depending on the number of bags you bring. Your first checked bag will increase by $10 from $35 to $45, the second from $45 to $55, and the third from $150 to $200. Other airlines are also raising their fares or adding baggage fees, like JetBlue, we first learned, was the first airline to do this in order to cover jet fuel costs. So just something to keep in mind. As we continue talking a little bit about the effects that we've seen related to those rising bag costs, I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about what we're seeing regarding tariffs that the president has wanted to institute, because at this point, President Trump is preparing new tariffs on aluminum and steel. Some critics say this is going to have a negative impact on military readiness at a time when the United States is involved in multiple engagements around the world. So let's take a look at this. American businesses are bracing for another round of these tariffs. The global tariff right now is at 10%, but the White House is floating the idea of increasing it to 15%. The president is also targeting aluminum and steel, and tariffs at those metals are still at 50%, but under a new rule announced last week, items that are made up of a significant amount of aluminum and steel, like washing machines, could be taxed at a 25% rate. The White House claims the policy is helping to boost American manufacturing. But critics argue it's the wrong time for these types of tariffs because they could make it more difficult for the Pentagon and America's allies to rearm after 4 years of war in Ukraine and a month of heavy airstrikes on Iran, not to mention the cost to the American consumer. Meanwhile, the European Union is making a big push to expand its own manufacturing base, framing it as a response to Trump's tariffs. They say they want to react to the president's tariffs and ensure that they don't need to depend on what America has in order to fund what they need to do. Tariffs are expected to be high on the agenda when President Trump travels to China next month for a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping. So that is something we're going to continue to follow. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, you guys, we are going to check in on our weather forecast here in the metro Atlanta area with meteorologist Alex Forbes. Also want to get the latest for you guys on the Artemis 2 mission. History being made by 4 astronauts, and now they're on their way home. We're going to take a look at some historic images of the moon when we return. Welcome back in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here at 2 o'clock. If you're here in the metro Atlanta area wondering what your weather forecast looks like, our meteorologist Alex Forbes has that for us, especially with so many of you headed out to the Masters this week. Check out what Alex has.
Yeah, a warm afternoon on the way here for metro Atlanta and North Georgia, hitting our high temperature later in the day thanks to the later sunset. So on our way to 75 here for this Tuesday. A little cooler tomorrow, 68 going to be your high temperature there, but then we are going to be warm once again to round out the week. Mind you, our average high is 71. We're going to talk more about those numbers here in just a moment, but first, I also want to highlight that the chance of rain today and for the remainder of the week and on into next week is 0, and that's not the best news in the world because we do need the rain. The first result of that is the fire danger conditions we have today. The combination of the dry vegetation, the low humidity, and the winds will allow fires to potentially spread unintentionally, right? You never intend for the fire to end up in the neighbor's yard, in the neighbor's house, or anything like that. So outdoor burning not recommended today. The other result is that the drought monitor continues to not be good for the state of Georgia. So this is updated as of last Thursday. Happening today, they're going around taking new measurements all across the United States, but that includes here in Georgia. We're going to get an update to this map once we get towards this Thursday. But closer into North Georgia, do notice that you have really northeast Georgia from Lake Hartwell over to Athens, up through Gainesville, Clarksville, Homer, Helen, Dahlonega, Blue Ridge, Dalton, over towards Chickamauga, all in extreme drought. And then you've got severe drought along the I-20 corridor. That includes us here in metro Atlanta. It goes up 75 before you run into that extreme drought area. Also still have extreme drought down in Upson County, where they've been in extreme drought for quite a while. And of course, that extends down towards the Columbus area. When you add it all up, it's actually more than 85% of the state in Georgia that's in severe drought or worse. Way up to exceptional. Of course, the worst conditions are down to the south. That's going to be down south of Albany and the Valdosta area and extends down into Florida. What we need to put this to bed is 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain each week for 3 months. And we do not have that on the horizon, so do expect this to continue. So here you go today. No rain. 77 in Milledgeville, 76 in Covington, 75 over in Athens. This afternoon, 76 in Carrollton, and 72 up in Dalton. So expecting an above average day today. That's after a below average day yesterday and a right at average Easter Sunday. So as we fill in this calendar here over the next week, I expect a red day here, a blue day for Wednesday. We're going to be slightly below the norm, and then it's just going to be red from there on out. It's going to be somewhat reminiscent of how March was across the area. Not only is it going to be warm, but it's going to be dry. There's very little moisture in our air, which is why we're not getting the rain. That's also why we have that fire danger in place. So here's how it shapes up on the hour-by-hour computer forecast model. Sunny skies today here in the city. Through the overnight, do notice some cloud cover builds back in. Temperatures in the upper 40s and low 50s. Out in Augusta tomorrow, it's not going to be quite as sunny as it was today or is today across really eastern Georgia, but still a pretty nice day if you're headed out to the Masters. And then that's going to set the stage for another cool start for Thursday morning. Temperatures down in the 40s. That's the actual first day of the Masters tournament down there. So for tomorrow in Augusta, I'm looking for 67 as a high temperature, mostly sunny skies, a breeze out of the northeast at 10 to 15 miles an hour. 68 there for Wednesday, 72 on Thursday. Cool mornings, warm afternoons. Very much the name of the game. We got record high temperatures in jeopardy Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. As of now, I'm not forecasting to break those records, but that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on into next week.
All right, Alex. Well, thanks so much for letting us know where things stand. Yes, I see some of you guys in the comments asking about a drought in Atlanta and in Georgia. We are facing one, and Alex has been talking about it a lot, and I'm sure he'll continue to do so because it is pretty serious what we're facing. But in the meantime, speaking of weather, let's go otherworldly here for a second outside our solar system, or rather our planet, actually. Let's come back outside our planet to where the 4 astronauts are currently. Today, the 4 astronauts of the Artemis 2 mission are going to be making history again as they plan a ship-to-ship call with the International Space Station. And this comes as we're learning a little bit more about the 4 astronauts who went around the moon last night, and now they're headed back to Earth as heroes. President Trump congratulated the crew after the team traveled deeper into space than any other human being has gone before. The spacecraft flew around the moon's far side last night, getting never-seen seen before images of the lunar surface. They did lose communication with mission control here on Earth for almost an hour, but seem to be in good spirits, are back in communication with mission control. And NASA has shared stunning photos from the mission Tuesday morning. The president told the crew this test flight is only the beginning, and the next step is boots on the moon in 2028. President Trump has invited the team to the White House when they get back and says he will be asking for their autographs. But one thing, when a lot of people, I've seen questions here on TikTok and YouTube questioning why we're going back to the moon and what the goal is right now. Well, the moon has a really rare element, helium-3, that's found in very rare quantities here on Earth. And it's an element that can be used with nuclear fusion and could potentially be a limitless source of energy with very few waste and harmful byproducts. And so if we are able to harness an energy source like this, it could make us incredibly dominant in the future. China is another country working to harness the effects of helium-3 as well, and there are already multiple companies right now building capital to begin mining helium-3 from the moon's surface before 2030. So if you're curious as to what this is all really about and why we're talking about establishing lunar colonies, this is why. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, coming up next, we're going to come closer here to Earth, where there is a runoff for the 14th Congressional District, the seat formerly held by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. So we're going to check in with our Austin Haygood as he speaks with local election officials about what they're looking at with this runoff election today. That's straight ahead. Welcome back in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here at 2 o'clock. So voters in Georgia's 14th Congressional District are returning to the polls for a very high-stakes runoff election, and this could potentially impact the balance of power in Washington. So you may remember this seat was formerly held by Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and now voters are deciding between a Democrat and a Republican on their ballots. We have Democrat Sean Harris and Republican Clay Fuller. So let's get out to our Austin Haygood, who is live at the Paulding County elections facility there at the Watson Government Complex. Austin, I know you're behind the camera getting ready to speak to Paulding County's election director. Tell us a little bit about what's happening there today. It looks like people can vote at the Watson Government Complex in Paulding County with that sign there.
That's right. We've seen quite a few amount of people come through today and vote. Seems like a pretty short line here today, but to tell us more about today's election and what people can expect, we're going to talk to Paulding County Elections Director Deidre Holden. All right, and let's get framed up here. Deidre, how you doing, and how's everything going here today?
An hour ago, we voted about 7,700 today. We voted over 10,000 in the 4 days we had early voting. So people are out voting. Hope we get more to come out and vote today. So it's just been a great day so far. No issues.
Gotcha. And just vote numbers today. Do you guys have like a total so far?
Yes. So far today, 7,700. And then early, we voted over 10,000. So about 17,000 right now.
Gotcha. And if somebody's like waking up today and they're like, oh my goodness, I got to go vote, and not sure if they're already registered or not, what should they do?
They need to first go to my voter page, www.mvp.sos.ga.gov, search for their information. It will give them a sample ballot. It will tell them their polling location they need to go to and get them there to vote.
Gotcha. And just what have you guys seen, with this? You mentioned something about absentee ballots. I mean, like, what's going on with that?
So we've mailed out over 600 absentee ballots. If you have not returned your absentee ballot, you have to do that today by 7 p.m. So if you have it, go ahead and walk that in because the post office will not be able to deliver that on time. So please make sure you get those in by 7 p.m. in order for those to count.
Gotcha. And then today, with it being the actual election, people have to go to different precincts. So that'll also be on the SOS website, correct?
Absolutely. You have to go to your assigned polling location today. So make sure you get out, check that, and go to your assigned polling location.
Gotcha. And then, like, results. Do we know, like, we have an estimate of when, like, results will be posted? Maybe here, not here in Paulding County in particular, just across the state?
So hopefully we'll have those all posted no later than 10 p.m. I know we do our first upload around 7:30. That includes absentee and absentee in person. So you'll start seeing results come in shortly after 8 p.m.
Gotcha. And then can you talk on like early voting numbers? Like, do we have like the amounts of like compared like early to just today, coming in today?
So I think our early voting numbers for this runoff election was phenomenal because we voted, like I said, over 10,000 in 4 days. We voted 16,000 in 23 days. So people have been out voting. They are coming in, and hopefully they'll turn out today. I hope we see at least 20,000 today.
Gotcha. And just you mentioned that even though there's an election today, after today's over, the election's job is never finished, right? We've got another election coming up here soon, right?
Absolutely. After we get this one settled, then we turn right around, and in 3 weeks we start early voting for the May 19th primary. So we'll be rolling from this election right into another, but we love it. We're excited about it. So just want everybody to get out and vote.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys, and again, you can vote out today, and then 7 p.m. is the closing time?
7 p.m.
7 p.m. is when the polls will close, so make a plan to vote if you live in the 14th district. And again, Paulding County, one of those counties that is in that 14th district, that will be trying to find who's going to take Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat.
Yeah. Austin, thank you for that insightful interview, giving us a little bit about what to expect with voting today. And of course, incredible to hear the numbers of people just turning out to vote early and even in the runoff election today. So people very civically minded and engaged with the results of what we're going to see from District 14. So Austin Haygood, thank you so much for joining us live and for that interview. As we continue here at 2 o'clock, I want to keep you guys updated on an issue that affects a lot of Americans. Many of you are very concerned with the cost of health care, and Americans' frustrations with rising health care costs are threatening to bubble over at the ballot box in November. We're speaking about elections. We do have the midterms this year, and according to a new Gallup poll, health care costs are the #1 concern of Americans. Curious, do you feel the same way? 61% of Americans saying that they worry a great deal about health care access and affordability. Health care concerns about how much it costs and affording it tops even worries about the economy and inflation. Concerns have mounted after enhanced premium tax credits were allowed to expire by Congress last year. And the result, according to the nonpartisan health policy organization KFF, is that annual out-of-pocket premiums this year will more than double from $888 last year to $1,904 this year. The loss of the credit's only part of the issue here. On top of that, insurers in the Affordable Care Act marketplace are asking to raise rates by 18%. And you may think, okay, well, I don't shop for plans from the Affordable Care Act marketplace. Well, if you get your coverage from employers, you're not insulated from higher insurance costs. Those have also risen 50% in 10 years. One executive with the KFF Policy Institute, Larry Levitt, says that employers cover 160 million people in this country, and the cost of family insurance offered by an employer, the premium is now $27,000 a year. You could buy a new car for that every single year. A solution doesn't appear to be in sight. We've heard discussion of capping drug prices, creating a single payer system, or even going after hospital companies under antitrust laws. But that issue, the issue of health care, could rebound with particular force for Republicans this November. Keep in mind, 77% of enrollees in Affordable Care Act plans live in states that President Trump won in the 2024 election. So again, if you think that Affordable Care Act marketplace and the cost there may not affect you, for a lot of people who voted for President Donald Trump in the 2024 election, 77% of Affordable Care Act enrollees live in states that the president won. So that's something we're going to continue to keep you guys updated on as we take a look come November. I also want to tell you guys about something we're seeing regarding a cheap blood test. This is actually really interesting because you may be able to spot cancer and other diseases with this new cheap blood test. Check it out. Researchers are excited because this is a low-cost test. The test works by analyzing DNA cells from every organ that are naturally shed into your bloodstream. You might not know it, but every day, 50 to 70 billion cells in our body die, and they don't just disappear. Their DNA goes into the bloodstream, and this genetic material carries signals that reflects what's happening in the body. Well, as the senior researchers from UCLA's Health found, it means we already have information from all of our organs circulating in the blood. So a study took a look at blood samples from more than 1,000 people, including patients with liver, lung, ovarian, and stomach cancers. Others had liver diseases like hepatitis B, hepatitis C, alcohol-related liver disease, and fatty liver disease. And basically, researchers found that this low-cost blood test detected about 63% of cancers across all stages and about 55% of early-stage cancers. Now, experts agree early detection for fighting cancer is crucial. Survival rates are much higher when cancers are caught right before they spread. Researchers are warning larger trials are needed to confirm whether this test could work in real-world screening. But if you want to know more about this, you can find more about this low-cost blood test in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Science. That is where that study appeared. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that as we continue. As we take a look ahead here, you guys, we're going to be checking in with our Chris Rosenthal about a new data center tour that happened here in Georgia this morning. We're going to check out this data center with our Chris Rosenthal coming up next. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Ariel Onstadt. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to keep it so real with you. Don't know what's happening with our background right now. We'll get it back in just a little bit. But I want to let you know that our Chris Rosenthal went out to tour a data center here in Georgia. This is a private cloud data center owned by Eclipse Networks. And here in the region of Georgia, they're doing cybersecurity, IT infrastructure, and supporting organizations throughout the region. So Chris is giving us a look at what this data center does, how it works. We also know that Congressman Buddy Carter and Georgia Public Service Commissioner Tricia Pridemore were in attendance. So let's see what Chris was able to get for us.
You know, we hear so much about data centers these days, very big, large complexes going in, you know, to support cloud infrastructure and AI. But, you know, there are actually some very small data centers around as well. And I'm here visiting one of them today here at Eclipse Networks. It's actually, you drive in, you wouldn't even know it's here. It's in the basement of an office park here in Dunwoody. You'd never even realize it. They actually got some visitors today from Representative Buddy Carter and the Public Service Commissioner Tricia Pridemore, getting a look at this facility and what they have to offer, and also talking about security. But I also met with the business themselves and talked with them a little bit about what they do here. What we're looking at here, actually.
Yeah, so this is our private data center. We built this starting in 2011 is when we started construction, and so all of our partners who have our hosted services hosted right here in our office, just a stone's throw away from people who work on it and fix it and help make sure it's up and running all the time.
And when you talk about services, I mean, what does this do for people? I mean, you talk about cybersecurity, AI, cloud. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a cloud, right? And most people don't really think about cloud as being a bunch of pieces of hardware put together, but that's really what it is. So what we do here, we offer cloud services and hosting services, but we do it in a secure way. And so from cybersecurity through, physical security, right, even, and making sure that our cage stays locked. So part of what we do from a cybersecurity perspective is we make sure that, we're using strong passwords. We're making sure that all of your physical hardware is being physically secured. We're making sure that we're monitoring your email. We're making sure that we're monitoring users, right? So what are your users doing on a daily basis, a minute-by-minute basis? So the data center here is really our way of physically and cyberly securing our partners' environments.
I mean, there's so much going on in the world today. I mean, what are some of those threats and some of those threats that are evolving that you're facing?
You know, it's very interesting. About 5 years ago, threats were very high tech. Right, the bad guys, the bad actors, as we call them in our industry, they would do things like deploy a piece of bad software to a machine, and we would be able to see it and be alerted to it being there. Now do low-tech things, right? They do things like send you a link to your cell phone and steal your Microsoft token, right? And then they get in and they sit and they wait. And they watch what people do. They watch your activities. They're looking for transactions. They're looking for moving data, things like that. And then before you know it, they've been lurking for weeks and weeks and weeks, and then they strike and they send money to offshore accounts instead of your typical accounts, and nobody even knew they were there. And so the strategy for the bad guys has changed pretty significantly over the last couple years, and we have to be able to see all of that. And so part of what we do is watch, just like they do.
You know, we see a lot of data centers going up, and there's a lot of talk about them, big huge facilities. Where does this fit into that picture?
Yeah. So we are a data center with all of those same capabilities as those big data centers have, but because we keep it small and because we keep it local, you know, we're not using up all that power, right? Our bill is very insignificant every month, especially for a business.
And I talked with Representative Buddy Carter just about why he came out here today and the partnership these businesses can have with the government to better support security with all the cybersecurity threats that are out there today.
We talk about this quite often, the fact that we've got to have private-public partnerships and sharing information. When you see something, say something. And it's important for companies like this to share that information with the government so that we can anticipate what may be coming in that area as well. And vice versa. It's important for the government to share information with the private sector.
We hear a lot of criticism for data centers. Is a small data center like this, you know, maybe some of the answer to that?
I think it is. You know, we need, just like we need small businesses, we're going to need small data centers. Everybody thinks of a data center as being a giant warehouse, and a lot of them are, and that's okay. But you also need these smaller ones as well.
And again, Eclipse Networks here it's a small operation, employs about 30 or so people, but always looking for good engineers. There are plenty of great jobs, a big demand in the industry as a whole across the state of Georgia. Cybersecurity in and of itself is a $5 billion a year industry. Back to you.
All right, Chris, well, thanks so much for letting us know how this works, what it means for the economy here in Georgia, and how it affects businesses. Interesting to consider taking a look at data centers, especially this one is not new, right? This data center has been around long before the boom of all these AI data centers were seen, but interesting to see the effects as we begin to see more of those here in our state. I want to talk about some other headlines as we prepare for 3 o'clock that we're following here in our newsroom. Want to let you know that by now you may have heard that Atlanta rapper Offset has been shot outside of a casino in Florida. Well, now we're learning that rapper Lil TJ has been arrested in connection to an incident outside that Florida casino. At this point, rapper Lil TJ, whose real name is Tion Jaden Merritt, was booked into Broward County Jail for an incident at the Seminole Hard Rock Hollywood. He's charged with disorderly conduct, which is a misdemeanor, but we know an incident started around 7 o'clock last night in the valet area of the casino. Police report a fight broke out, and that ultimately led to Offset being shot. He, professionally known as Offset, his government name is Kiari Kendrell Cephas. And while TMZ's reporting Offset was shot, a spokesperson told the outlet that the rapper is doing, quote, fine. So we're working to figure out more information as to who may have been responsible for that gunfire. Officials confirmed Offset was taken to a hospital for non-life-threatening injuries, but it's unclear what sparked that initial fight in the valet area. We know police detained another person in the scene alongside rapper Lil TJ, or Merritt, but that individual has not yet been charged, and it sounds like investigators are working to identify other individuals who may have been involved in that incident. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn any new information. Also want to let you know that Savannah Guthrie, NBC Today anchor, has returned to the anchor desk after more than 2 months since her mom, Nancy Guthrie, disappeared. She greeted supporters outside, thanking them for their prayers and support. Her mother, Nancy Guthrie, was reported missing from her home in Tucson February 1st, and investigators believe she was taken against her will in the middle of the night. The FBI released door cam video showing a suspect on Nancy's front porch, but despite a massive search involving thousands of federal and local officers and immense resources, there's been no sign of 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. In an interview last month, Savannah Guthrie said she and her siblings responded to 2 ransom notes that they do believe were real and offered to pay, but no arrests have been made, and investigators say the number of credible tips has slowed as the investigation has now entered its 3rd month. So the Guthrie family is still offering a $1 million reward for information leading to Nancy's recovery. So we'll continue to keep you updated as we learn any new information about this. A really tragic situation as Savannah and her siblings just want their mother back and want to learn about what happened to her. But let's bring you back here to the desk and zoom out as we have Tom Haynes ready to tell us what is coming up here at 3 o'clock. Tom.
A real busy afternoon of news here. coming up on Fox Local at 3 o'clock. Voters in the 14th District, that's up in northwest Georgia, headed to the polls today. Remember, President Trump came down to campaign in that district to fill Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. It's a big story. Two candidates going head-to-head. They are running pretty tightly in the polls, too. Our Deidre Dukes on top of that race. Results, of course, start coming in after 7 o'clock tonight when the polls close. So we're going to find out how turnout is this afternoon and all the metrics that are going into this race. One that the entire nation, by the way, Ariel,
truly
is going to be watching as sort of a bellwether to the November elections.
It's going to be interesting.
Just one of our big stories coming up here at 3 o'clock. I liked the mood lighting behind you there for a little while. Looks like we got the lights back on,
Looks
which
pretty
is a good thing.
Yeah, amen. Well, Tom, thank you. And thank you guys so much for streaming with us. We have more headed your way at 3 o'clock.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm your host, Tom Haines. For the next hour here, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom with all the stories making headlines on this Tuesday. Atlanta police, right off the top at 3, need your help finding a critically missing 11-year-old boy, we understand. Investigators say that Angel Harbin was last seen yesterday on Etheridge Drive in northwest Atlanta near James Jackson Parkway. Here's the photo that police want you to take a good look at. Police believe that Angel climbed out of a bedroom window and then ran away after being disciplined by his mother. He is 5'4" tall, weighs about 80 pounds, and was last seen wearing a matching blue sweatshirt and shorts. So if you happen to see Angel or have any information on his whereabouts, you're asked to call Atlanta Police immediately, 404-597-0691, or just call 911, even though it's not an emergency necessarily. If you happen to see this child, you are asked to call police. DeKalb County police are investigating a deadly shooting that shut down parts of the interstate early this morning. Officers responded to I-285 south near Glenwood Road about 3 a.m., where they found a man suffering from a gunshot wound. Investigators believe that the shooting actually began during an argument between people who knew each other on Marbut Road. Police say a witness drove the victim from that location to the highway before calling for help. The victim was rushed to a nearby hospital but has since died from his injuries. The investigation is active and ongoing as detectives work to identify a suspect. Voters in the 14th district are at the polls today to decide who will fill the remainder of Marjorie Taylor Greene's congressional seat. It's a high-stakes runoff between Democrat Sean Harris and Republican Clay Fuller. Deidre Dukes is following this race for us this afternoon at the Watson Government Complex. Deidre, how is turnout looking there so far? This is really going to be a bellwether election.
Yeah, Tom, we have visited a couple of locations since this morning. Started out in Rockmart. We are now in Dallas and Paulding County, and traffic has been steady. We've seen steady foot traffic. Both Republicans and Democrats we've talked to saying that they really felt it was important to come out and cast their ballots in this high-profile race. 10 Northwest Georgia counties represented by the candidate that wins this race here in Northwest Georgia tonight, this runoff election. Now, as you said, this is very much a Republican stronghold, but Democrats do hope that given the economy and immigration issues, and also with the war in Iran, that they can flip this seat, that there will be enough of political climate that would give them the opportunity to flip this seat this go-round. Although both Republican and Democratic strategists do say that going into this race, that the Republicans do seem to most likely have the best chance of holding on to this seat. But as we know in politics, it's not over until it's over, so to speak. So we did catch up with both of the candidates as they cast their ballots today. And here's what they told us heading into today's election.
The race is clear. President Trump needs a fighter on Capitol Hill to move his agenda forward. Obviously, you know, the numbers in the House are very narrow. And the other tragedy for me has been that this district has been without representation since January 5th. So it's time to send a fighter for Northwest Georgia and the hardworking people here up to Capitol Hill and get that fighter up here to make a difference for the communities here in Northwest Georgia.
My connection is a connection of trust. We have a great relationship with everybody throughout the district, all 10 counties. We have went to every zip code, and I'm so proud that we actually did town halls all over the district, so we have actually talked to everybody. And when I say everybody, Democrats, Independents, and Republicans have came to my town hall and actually asked me the hard questions. And those questions have been answered. And that's why we have the trust of the people. And that is why you're going to see today.
Now, Harris did finish first in the race back in March over Fuller, but of course not garnering enough votes to avoid a runoff, and so we do have the runoff election here today. Also, Fuller has been endorsed by President Trump. Harris is hoping that a broad coalition of Democrats, Republicans, Independents will help push him over the finish line, and that he'll be victorious tonight. But the nation is truly watching this race, and all eyes on Georgia. Once again, it seems to be the common theme here, Tom, for us.
You know, Deidre, I know Georgia is considered, quote unquote, a purple state. It can vote either direction depending on where you are. If you're in the metro Atlanta area, we know what voters are going to say. If you're in the Savannah area, we know where the race is going. Most other parts of Georgia are deep red. Northwest Georgia, no exception. I wouldn't have called Marjorie Taylor Greene necessarily a moderate Republican, and she had a pretty solid base up there. So it's a little surprising to me that this race is so close. Is there any sort of explanation or reasoning behind that?
Well, just in talking to people here in this community, I'd say that the Democratic candidate, Mr. Harris, is very well known and respected. Whether someone, would choose to vote for him, that's another story. You have people who are staunch Republicans, staunch Democrats. But just from those that I've spoken with who perhaps are voting for the Republican candidate, you just have the sense in talking to people that they really feel that the tone of this race was very positive. They seem to have great respect for both candidates, and perhaps that really weighs in to where we're seeing, at least on the face of it, strong numbers turnout for the Democratic candidate as he heads into the race, the election tonight.
I believe that if Democrats manage to flip this seat, it's going to be a pretty big story tomorrow morning, and I'm talking about on the national news networks because, you know, again, in a district that's been reliably Republican and a representative who was, in my judgment, not really considered a moderate at all, if Democrats manage to go in there and flip it and turn it to a Democrat representative, you know, maybe you're hearing out there on the streets folks who are disenfranchised with the current situation. Maybe they feel inflation's still too high. Maybe they feel prices at the gas pump are too high. Maybe, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, they didn't necessarily believe in projecting our power around the rest of the world. They believed in focusing our energies domestically. That was one of her big sort of platforms and one of the reasons she detached from President Trump. Maybe they're going to sort of reflect that when they walk into the polling place.
And we did hear from Republicans and Democrats that we interviewed earlier today when I asked them why was it so important for you to come out, no matter, you know, whether it's an R or a D there after the name, so to speak. They did say that they really feel that it's important that they cast their ballot because they're saying that there is so much going on right now, the political climate, the economy, the war in Iran. People have very strong feelings on both sides, right, sure. Tom, of the issue. And so that's why they're coming out. We also do want to add, though, that, of course, whoever wins tonight is finishing up former Congresswoman Greene's current term, which means they're going to have to turn around and do this all over again for the May primaries, and both of these candidates have qualified for the May primary. So there is a chance, you know, again, this is politics, there's a chance that no matter the outcome today, we could come November see both these candidates facing off once again, Tom.
And real quick before you go, Deidre, missing in all of this is Marjorie Taylor Greene herself backing either of these two candidates.
Yeah, and that is quite notable. She's been very quiet, other than, of course, to speak out as far as her feelings regarding President Trump and his actions as president here domestically and internationally as well. But as far as this race is concerned, she has not endorsed any candidates in the race, and has even, you know, several outlets, including ours, have approached her to try to get her input on this particular race, and she has just really stayed out of it.
All right. Good coverage up there in Northwest Georgia, watching voters headed into the polls, getting a pulse of what's going on up there. Deidre Dukes live for us. Deidre, thanks. 3 Metro Atlanta families are mourning the loss of their teenagers after a fiery spring break crash in Florida. This is a sad story. The Florida Highway Patrol says the group was traveling in a Jeep along Highway 65 in Franklin County Monday morning when the vehicle left the road, struck a tree, and then caught fire. 3 teens from Alpharetta and Cumming were killed in the wreck, while a 4th survivor was airlifted to a Tallahassee hospital in critical condition, we understand. The Franklin County Sheriff's Office says the students were in the area on a family vacation. There are reports at least one of the victims attended Horizon Christian School in Forsyth, but officials identified, and they have not identified yet those victims or released their names yet as the investigation into the cause of this crash continues. A Southwest Atlanta community mourning the tragic loss of a 3-year-old boy killed in a shooting over the weekend, we understand. The Fulton County Medical Examiner identified the child as Armani Lyons. Investigators say that the toddler was in the care of a 70-year-old babysitter at an apartment on Washington Street while his parent was at work. Armani died from a gunshot wound to the head just after midnight on Sunday. Police say other people may have been inside the home at the time, but so far no other individuals have been identified. The babysitter was brought in for questioning as a witness, but no charges have been filed and no arrests have been made. Atlanta police described the investigation as fluid as they work to determine exactly how that child was shot. On the international front this afternoon, there could be some major movement in Iran tonight. American airstrikes pounded targets on Iran's Karg Island early this morning as this deadline from President Trump looms this evening. The president is demanding Iran fully surrender and reopen the Strait of Hormuz by 8 p.m. tonight. All right, that's the deadline, warning of massive attacks on infrastructure if the deadline is not met. The president putting on Truth Social, a whole civilization will die tonight, never to be brought back again. Diplomats are scrambling to reach a deal after Iran rejected the latest ceasefire proposal, while leaders in Qatar warn of a global economic catastrophe. Let's listen.
There are a lot of dangers to that happening when it comes to food security, when it comes to water security, when it comes to environmental security, that we are still at the threshold of all of these challenges, and we hope that we can remain there and we are able to walk back from there to a more safe environment. But obviously we are quite concerned with all that is happening right now, and I won't go beyond that, just to say that we are all waiting for what's going to happen in the next couple of hours, and we are supportive, of course, of the efforts of Pakistan and the other mediators in finding a resolution to this before it escalates beyond anyone's control.
Again, that deadline coming up at 8 p.m. tonight, and we will see how the administration responds should Iran not agree to any sort of way forward in its conflict with the United States. The vice president is out on the road. J.D. Vance says he believes President Trump will receive a response from Iran by tonight's 8 p.m. deadline. The vice president speaking alongside the Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban in Budapest Tuesday. Let's listen to the vice president's take on whether Iran will come to the table by 8 o'clock tonight.
There are still some things that we'd like to do, for example, on Iranian ability to manufacture weapons that we'd like to do a little bit more work on militarily. But fundamentally, the military objectives of the United States have been completed. So that means, as the president has said, very shortly this war is going to conclude. The United States has the ability to extract much greater economic costs on Iran than Iran has on an ability to extract costs on us or on our friends in the world. So I hope that they're smart. The president has set a deadline for about 12 hours from now in the United States. We're going to find out, but there's going to be a lot of negotiation between now and then, and I'm hopeful that it gets to a good resolution. The president's deadline has been followed by us and everybody else, and he said very clearly, we're not going to strike energy and infrastructure targets until the Iranians either make a proposal that we can get behind or don't make a proposal, but he's given them until Tuesday at 8 o'clock. So I don't think the news in Karg Island represents a change in strategy or represents any change from the President of the United States. He continues to say the deadline is 8 o'clock. The Iranians were not the fastest negotiators before the war started, and they are certainly not the fastest negotiators now. So we recognize there's some delay sometimes in transmitting messages from one person to another, but we feel confident that we can get a response, whether it's positive or negative. We're going to get a response from the Iranians by 8 o'clock tonight. They've got to know we've got tools in our toolkit that we so far haven't decided to use. The President of the United States can decide to use them, and he will decide to use them if the Iranians don't change their course of conduct.
In Hungary in a show of support for Viktor Orban, who's trailing in the polls. There's an election in that country. The country's elections will be held this Sunday, of course, an election we will be watching here. The ongoing conflict with Iran is certainly driving up prices at the pump, and Americans are feeling the sting everywhere, from the gas pump to the grocery store, to air travel, which we'll talk about here in just a second. Major carriers like FedEx, UPS, logistics companies, the Postal Service have already implemented steep fuel surcharges to cover rising logistical costs. Amazon also adding new fees for sellers as crude oil prices continue to climb. UC Berkeley's Energy Institute says oil remains the lifeblood of the American economy. Let's listen.
Crude oil and the petroleum products that are being affected by the war go into manufacturing of pretty much everything. So we will start to see increase in the prices of manufactured goods and also in the delivery of those goods. All of these are going to start to raise prices, and that starts to show up as inflation. And once it starts to show up as inflation, the Fed gets very worried about that because you can get into an inflationary spiral.
You know, the United States is feeling the brunt of the war in Iran now in the form of prices for nearly everything, because to transit goods and services, it takes fuel. And the price to transport goods and services has gone up in the form of the price of fuel. And so we're seeing it not only at the gas pump, but in logistical supply chains, et cetera. Traveling, no exception this summer. The price of traveling is about to get a whole lot more expensive as jet fuel shortages and rising costs force airlines to scale back. United Airlines is the first major U.S. carrier to announce cuts, axing 5% of its flights through September. What does that mean? That means supply and demand is going to be affected. United doesn't necessarily want to cut its supply of flights, but says it has no choice based on the cost of fuel. So while Americans are going to continue to demand to travel, the airline says we simply cannot maintain the capacity of getting you there. So what does that mean? Less supply means higher prices. Double that with the price of jet fuel, and ticket prices are on the rise. While larger hubs may absorb the blow, smaller airports are facing the real risk of being deprioritized as ticket prices soar to cover those skyrocketing fuel expenses.
Now we need to be watching this very closely. We know that jet fuel is the #1 expense for any airline. That has been the case for decades. So obviously something like this, the impact of this war, is something we're going to be watching very closely.
This does, however, suggest that they think that the high jet fuel prices are not going to disappear anytime soon. Oh, there's no question that if the war drags on, we are going to see a major economic hit from this.
Airlines are also raising the price of checked bags, something we're going to talk about here in just a second as it relates to our hometown carrier. But it's not just domestic airlines. Scandinavian Airlines says that it's going to cancel 1,000 Nordic region short-haul flights. Air New Zealand axing over 1,100 flights, about 5% of its trips. With fewer seats to sell, ticket prices go up to cover the cost of skyrocketing jet fuel prices. Again, Delta Airlines feeling the brunt as well. Delta is going to raise checked bag fees as the industry grapples with skyrocketing jet fuel costs tied to the war in Iran. For tickets purchased starting tomorrow, baggage fees are going to climb by $10 to $15, depending on the route. The cost for a first checked bag is jumping from $35 to $45, while a second bag will now set you back $55. What's the problem with that? While it may help the airline in the short term, rolling back those fees once the economy heals, jet fuel prices go down, and things start to open up again, resetting those prices is something nobody knows when is going to happen. Analysts say Delta's joining JetBlue and United Airlines in raising these ancillary fees to offset the operating expenses without hiking ticket prices and scaring off summer travelers. The president is also getting in on the act. It's kind of the last thing we want to talk about here, but in the form of tariffs. President Trump signaling a new round of tariffs on steel and aluminum, a move that critics warn could stall military rearmament as the United States remains in this global conflict. Remember, the Supreme Court ruled on a lot of the president's tariffs not too long ago. The White House arguing the policy boost American manufacturing. Democrats point to rising costs for small businesses and firearms. The 25% tax on goods heavily reliant on these metals comes as the Pentagon and NATO allies struggle to replenish stockpiles following years of war in Ukraine and recent airstrikes in Iran. When we come back, it is a beautiful Tuesday afternoon out there. On the cooler side, but not those clouds that were hanging around yesterday. Meteorologist Alex Forbes is here tracking how the rest of our work week is going to unfold for us when we come back. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for streaming with us for the 3 p.m. hour here on Fox Local. I'm your host inside the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom, Tom Haines, with you here for the hour. Boy, I was outside not too long ago, and it was beautiful outside. I mean, temperatures are cool. There's like no humidity out there after what was kind of a crummy start to our work week. Here's meteorologist Alex Forbes to tell us how long this beautiful spring-like weather is going to last.
Yeah, a warm afternoon on the way here for Metro Atlanta and North Georgia, hitting our high temperature later in the day thanks to the later sunset. So on our way to 75 here for this Tuesday. A little cooler tomorrow, 68 going to be your high temperature there, but then we are going to be warm once again to round out the week. Mind you, our average high is 71. We're going to talk more about those numbers here in just a moment, but first, I also want to highlight that the chance of rain today and for the remainder of the week and on into next week is 0, and that's not the best news in the world because we do need the rain. The first results of that is the fire danger conditions we have today. The combination of the dry vegetation, the low humidity, and the winds will allow fires to potentially spread unintentionally, right? You never intend for the fire to end up in the neighbor's yard, in the neighbor's house, or anything like that. So outdoor burning not recommended today. The other result is that the drought monitor continues to not be good for the state of Georgia. So this is updated as of last Thursday. Happening today, they're going around taking new measurements all across the United States, but that includes here in Georgia. We're going to get an update to this map once we get towards this Thursday. But closer into North Georgia, do notice that you have really northeast Georgia from Lake Hartwell over to Athens, up through Gainesville, Clarksville, Homer, Helen, Dahlonega, Blue Ridge, Dalton, over towards Chickamauga, all in extreme drought. And then you've got severe drought along the I-20 corridor. That includes us here in Metro Atlanta. It goes up 75 before you run into that extreme drought area. Also still have extreme drought down in Upson County, where they've been in extreme drought for quite a while. And of course, that extends down towards the Columbus area. When you add it all up, it's actually more than 85% of the state of Georgia that's in severe drought or worse. Way up to exceptional. Of course, the worst conditions are down to the south. That's going to be down south of Albany and the Valdosta area and extends down into Florida. What we need to put this to bed is 1 inch to 1.5 inches of rain each week for 3 months, and we do not have that on the horizon, so do expect this to continue. So here you go today. No rain. 77 in Milledgeville, 76 in Covington, 75 over in Athens. This afternoon, 76 in Carrollton, and 72 up in Dalton. So expecting an above average day today. That's after a below average day yesterday and a right at average Easter Sunday. So as we fill in this calendar here over the next week, I expect a red day here, a blue day for Wednesday. We're going to be slightly below the norm, and then it's just going to be red from there on out. It's going to be somewhat reminiscent of how March was across the area. Not only is it going to be warm, but it's going to be dry. There's very little moisture in our air, which is why we're not getting the rain. That's also why we have that fire danger in place. So here's how it shapes up on the hour-by-hour computer forecast model. Sunny skies today here in the city. Through the overnight, do notice some cloud cover builds back in. Temperatures in the upper 40s and low 50s. Out in Augusta tomorrow, it's not going to be quite as sunny as it was today or is today across really eastern Georgia, but still a pretty nice day if you're headed out to the Masters, and then that's going to set the stage for another cool start for Thursday morning. Temperatures down in the 40s. That's the actual first day of the Masters tournament down there. So for tomorrow in Augusta, I'm looking for 67 as a high temperature, mostly sunny skies, a breeze out of the northeast at 10 to 15 miles an hour. 68 there for Wednesday, 72 on Thursday. Cool mornings, warm afternoons. Very much the name of the game. We got record high temperatures in jeopardy Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. As of now, I'm not forecasting to break those records, but that's something we're going to be keeping an eye on into next week.
All right, Alex, thanks. The Artemis 2 astronauts still out and about. They went on the dark side of the moon yesterday. The astronauts are making history again today as they prepare for a ship-to-ship call with the International Space Station. Imagine if they could pass by the space station, you know, give the astronauts a wave as they went by. That'd be pretty cool. Crew on their way back to Earth after traveling deeper into space than any human being in history. Very cool stuff. A mission that included a dramatic trip around the far side of the moon. President Trump congratulating the team today during the flight. The president calling into the orbiter, calling the mission a globally inspiring achievement that paves the way for a permanent lunar presence by 2028. We got some incredible pictures back from Artemis, not only of the moon, but from the moon looking back to Earth. Astronaut Christina Koch says that the highlight was seeing planet Earth reappear after losing communication behind the moon for nearly an hour. The president's already invited the crew to the White House upon their return, telling the team that he'll be lining up to get their autographs. Americans' frustration with rising health care insurance costs are threatening to bubble over at the ballot box in November. According to a new Gallup poll, health care costs are the #1 concern of Americans, with 61% of us saying that we worry a great deal about health care access and affordability. The issue topping even worries about the economy and inflation. Concerns mounting after enhanced premium tax credits were allowed to expire by a Republican Congress. The result, according to the nonpartisan health policy organization KFF, is that annual out-of-pocket premium payments this year will more than double from $888 in 2025 to almost $2,000 this year. The loss of the credit only part of the issue here. On top of that, insurers with the ACA marketplace are asking to raise rates by about 18%. Researchers are highlighting a breakthrough in cancer screening with a new low-cost blood test designed to detect early signs of disease. The test works by analyzing fragments of DNA that are naturally shed into the bloodstream as billions of cells in our organs die every day. A study from UCLA's Health Cancer Center involving more than 1,000 patients found the test detected 63% of cancers across all stages. It also successfully identified 55% of early-stage cancers, which is critical since survival rates climb drastically when the disease is caught before it spreads. The test also screened for liver conditions like hepatitis and fatty liver disease. Findings are published in the proceedings of the National Academy of Scientists. The researchers warn larger trials are still needed to confirm these results in the real world. Coming up, state law enforcement cracking down on distracted driving. Our Tyler Fingert here, live on set with that story as we continue. Welcome back to the 3 p.m. streaming hour. Tom Haynes, joined by our own Tyler Fingert. State law enforcement cracking down, Tyler, on distracted drivers this week as part of a national safety campaign. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, so basically we know that NHTSA has designated this week, put the phone away or pay to remind drivers that obviously they should not be distracted. And a Georgia family is turning tragedy into mission to save lives on the road after losing his son Philip in a crash near LaGrange in 2014. 2014. Mike Letzenkirchen created the Let's C43 Foundation to help drivers make better decisions before getting behind the wheel. Phillip, a former Auburn football player, wasn't driving, but he wasn't wearing a seatbelt at the same time when that crash happened. Now, through school programs and community outreach, the foundation is pushing drivers to stop and think, focusing on safe behaviors like staying alert, buckling up, and putting the phone down. And there are signs that message may be getting through. New data from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration shows traffic deaths are declining. In Georgia, alcohol-related crash deaths dropped by more than 100 in just 1 year, and that is the biggest decrease across the country. Overall traffic deaths in the state also fell, and nationwide fatalities hit one of the lowest levels in years. But even with that progress, the danger is far from gone. Officials say distracted driving remains one of the biggest threats on the road, and it is completely preventable, according to officials, because it only takes a few seconds to change a life forever. Take a listen to what the Let's C43 Foundation does when they meet with students and go to different schools in different areas throughout the country.
We try to impact 15-year-old kids anxious to get their permit, who have received their permit, through 16-year-olds that have now received their license, through college-age kids. So those are considered young drivers until you're 25 years old. But we also address corporate American adult drivers, so 65 and older. And what we recognize in the United States, we don't have a single image that if you looked at it, it would trigger anybody in this country to say, I've got to be a smarter and safer driver, or I can't be impaired, I can't be distracted, I can't be unsafe. Like in the state of Georgia, a wonderful campaign, Click It or Ticket, you'll see the state silhouette with a slash of a seatbelt through it. It's a singular topic. What we did is, not having an image, we took a key, which everybody knows about. We put 43 key seconds on that key. And a lot of smarter people than me came out and said, could we put our logo on the opposite side of the key? And to support the key as the image, we came up with a checklist that said, before you start your vehicle, again, no matter what your experience is, what you're driving, where you're driving, when you're driving, is you ask yourself to have a clear head, clear hands, clear eyes, and then we tie into the 20-year program called Click It or Ticket.
Yeah, and so nationwide, someone is injured in a distracted crash every 30 minutes, and obviously that's why NHTSA has designated this week. Obviously, they could probably do it year-round, but they've designated this week, as you can see on the sign, put the phone away or pay, to remind drivers the danger.
Or by killing somebody else through distracted driving. There are state penalties for using your mobile device in the car. You know, it's across the board, Tyler. Insurance companies, state officials, national organizations are trying to encourage people to put the phones away while we drive. It's something that is impossibly hard to do in many cases, but some people put their phones in the trunk so that they can't have access to it. I mean, we all like to have our radios on, or Pandora or Spotify or whatever, but it takes a tremendous amount of willpower. But stories like this of families who have lost loved ones because of distracted driving are not only evidence in and of themselves, but compelling on their own to try to do something to curb distracted driving.
And what I think is so interesting about the Let's C43 Foundation is he goes into schools. He'll be going going to Montgomery area tomorrow to actually do, I think it's the Prattville area, to talk to high schoolers there because their prom's this weekend. So he's trying to get them to understand that, hey, you may be thinking about all the fun you're going to have this weekend. You may be thinking about how you're going to get liquor, even though he said they're not supposed to have it. They're maybe thinking about that. He just wanted to, so they're bringing him out there this week and for tomorrow to be able to meet with them to try to get these kids to think about something else, just the dangers of driving distracted. I mean, obviously we know the dangers of it. His son lost his life in 2014. And what was really interesting to me, the type of program they do. They go in, it's about a 5-hour program, and they bring in a bunch of different people. They bring in children's doctors to talk about if you survive the crash, what your life is going to look like, possibly, because his son was going, I think it was 70-something miles an hour on the back roads near LaGrange when they went through a stop sign and the crash happened. His son wasn't wearing the seatbelt. He was in the rear. He was found 15 feet away from the vehicle. And then the only person who survived that crash
Who's the driver?
Was the person who was in the front passenger, I believe, and he was wearing a seatbelt. Only one person had a seatbelt on, and he was able to crawl away. But it's just obviously an important reminder. Not only should you wear a seatbelt, but also don't want to be distracted. You also don't want to be having any impairment when you get behind the wheel.
Well, shock value goes a long way. But what a noble cause and a nice way to honor the memory of their son. Tyler, thanks. Want to take a look at something going on I believe, our Sandy Springs Dunwoody camera. You see traffic. Not a lot of traffic out there today. It is spring break week, which is a good thing. Tyler, thanks so much. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching the 3 p.m. streaming hour here on Fox Local. I'm your host, Tom Haines, live in the Fox 5 Atlanta newsroom. Appreciate you joining us. If you're streaming on our mobile app on Fox Local, glad you're here this afternoon, or on one of our live channels at home. Certainly glad you are watching, or our social media sites at Fox 5 Atlanta, where we're also streaming live for you, or on the radio, 107.9 HD2 FM. Certainly glad you're listening to us today as we cover a lot of news on this Tuesday. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche announced the launch of a new fraud division to prosecute those who commit crimes. He also took questions from reporters about his role as Acting Attorney General after President Trump fired Pam Bondi from her role. Let's listen to just a part of that news conference.
We are going to staff this division by some of the department's best prosecutors, bringing together experts in healthcare fraud, tax fraud, benefits fraud, and corporate fraud under one roof with one mission: to protect the American people from fraud. Every U.S. Attorney's office across the country will also be joining this re-energized fight against fraud. This means in pure numbers that there will be an additional 93 prosecutors in every district across the country devoted to the mission of combating fraud with the National Fraud Enforcement Division. To the attorneys and staff who join this new division, you will have the entire department's support as you work to protect the financial integrity of our entire government and the tax system that supports it. We will spare no resources in giving you the tools that you need to bring strong cases and do justice. The new division will bring together data and investigators from across the entire government so that you can track down even the most sophisticated fraudsters and hold them accountable. For example, today I am directing the department to establish the National Fraud Detention Center. This fraud detention center will be a permanent, prosecutor-led, multi-agency data analytics team working to ferret out the most harmful actors defrauding federal government programs. So to the fraudsters who seek to take advantage of our nation, let this be a warning. The department will investigate you, we will charge you with crimes, and we will ensure that you are punished for your actions. The American people deserve an end to the crisis of fraud, and there is no better prosecutor to lead this mission than newly appointed Assistant Attorney General Colin McDonald, who's standing to my left. In the words of President Trump, he is very smart, tough, and highly respected. Colin is a veteran prosecutor who has spent his entire career as an assistant United States attorney in the Southern District of California. During his time in the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, he championed public safety and law enforcement, and I am confident that the National Fraud Enforcement Division and the entire department will benefit from his experience and his total commitment to justice. I expect there will be more to come in the next days and weeks from Colin and the Anti-Fraud Task Force, but I wanted to tell the American people today what this department is doing to comprehensively attack the fraud crisis in this country. Thank you. I'll take a few questions.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Attorney General. President Trump has made no secret of the fact that he wants to see his perceived political enemies prosecuted. So now that you're in this position, how are you going to balance that relentless pressure with this administration's promise to end the weaponization of this department?
Well, look, first of all, we have thousands of ongoing investigations and prosecutions going on in this country right now. And it is true that some of them involve men, women, and entities that the president in the past has had issues with and that believe should be investigated. That is his right, and indeed it is his duty to do that, meaning to lead this country. And so I do not view this as pressure. I do not view this as something that is going to keep me up at night, except to make sure that we are investigating every case that we have to the fullest extent of the law and using all the resources we can. And when you talk about weaponization, and it's become a word that is supposedly that when we talk about ending weaponization, as if that's a bad thing for us to do. Okay, people in this room for 4 years, some of you, the same people sat here with the last administration when you saw a weaponization of this department, the likes of which had never been seen in history. And some of you are looking down now, and I get it, because you had a president who was indicted 4 times by this department. You had a president who along with this department had assistance. So this department helped 2 other local DAs go after the president. You had this department who stood idly by while states tried to keep President Trump off the ballot. Okay, that's what happened the past 4 years. And so when I'm asked questions or when I see reporting about shock and awe at this supposed weaponization of this Department of Justice, it means nothing to me because it's completely false. What we're doing and what we've been doing for the past 14 months is changing this department. We're no longer, people say the president wants to go after his political enemies. No, the president has said time and time again that he wants justice. And if you look at what happened to him, his family, his administration, the agents that protected him, people that happened to just walk by him on a given day, they got subjected to massive investigations by this department. So I understand the question, and I understand the pretty constant role of the media that somehow this department is weaponizing itself, but it happens not to be true. We have tens of thousands of prosecutors all over this country putting bad guys in jail. Okay, that's something that wasn't happening like it should have been happening for the past 4 years. That's going to happen tomorrow, and it's going to happen in the coming days.
Lieutenant Bondi lost her job, though, because she was not successful in that pursuit.
you read the same exact communication from the president that I did. Pam Bondi is a trusted friend of President Trump's, will remain so. And no, nobody has any idea why the Attorney General is no longer the Attorney General and I'm the acting Attorney General, except for President Trump.
Two questions. One, kind of housekeeping. Since you are announced as the acting Attorney General today, when is Pam Bondi's last day on the job? And is this a position that you would like full-time?
So there's a bunch of questions there. So I am the acting Attorney General. As far as Pam Bondi's last day on the job, I'm the acting Attorney General. I'm going with her. We're traveling together tomorrow to a pre-scheduled event. So she'll be with me tomorrow. We've been regularly communicating over the past several days for an appropriate transition. She is very much a big supporter of this department, like she was last Thursday morning. She remains the same, and I expect that will continue. As to whether or not I want this job, I did not ask for this job. I love working for President Trump. It's the greatest honor of a lifetime, and if President Trump chooses to keep me as acting, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate me, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and I go back to being the DAG, that's an honor. If he chooses to nominate somebody else and asks me to go do something else, I will say thank you very much. I love you, sir.
All right, in his first appearance as acting Attorney General, this is Todd Blanche responding to one of those questions there, insisting that the Justice Department was not focused on going after the president's political enemies, instead saying that he's seeking out fraud in multiple cases and going after it, not saying when Pam Bondi will leave the Justice Department, although they're scheduled to go on an event here tomorrow, that he is honored to step into the role as acting Attorney General, and that if President Trump names him as a permanent replacement to Pam Bondi, he'll be honored to take it. If he doesn't, he'll be honored to step aside and work for the administration in another capacity, saying that he read the reports about why Pam Bondi lost her job, but he had no comment about that whatsoever. So again, that was acting Attorney General Todd Blanche in his first appearance before the press since assuming the role of Attorney General. As we move on here, two Congresspeople, Buddy Carter and Public Service Commissioner Tricia Pridemore, in Dunwoody, touring a local cybersecurity hub. And our Chris Rosenthal was there.
You know, we hear so much about data centers these days, very big, large complexes going in, to support cloud infrastructure and AI. But, there are actually some very small data centers around as well. And I'm here visiting one of them today here at Eclipse Networks. It's actually, you drive in, you wouldn't even know it's here. It's in the basement of an office park here in Dunwoody. You'd never even realize it. They actually got some visitors today from Representative Buddy Carter and the Public Service Commissioner Tricia Pridemore, getting a look at this facility and what they have to offer, and also talking about security. But I also met with the business themselves and talked with them a little bit about what they do here. What we're looking at here, actually.
Yeah, so this is our private data center. We built this starting in 2011 is when we started construction, and so all of our partners who have our hosted services hosted right here in our office, just a stone's throw away from people who work on it and fix it and help make sure it's up and running all the time.
I mean, talk about services. I mean, what does this do for people? I mean, you talk about cybersecurity, AI, cloud. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a cloud, right? And most people don't really think about cloud as being a bunch of pieces of hardware put together, but that's really what it is. So what we do here, we offer cloud services and hosting services, but we do it in a secure way. And so from cybersecurity through, physical security, right, even, and making sure that our cage stays locked. So part of what we do from a cybersecurity perspective is we make sure that, we're using strong passwords. We're making sure that all of your physical hardware is being physically secured. We're making sure that we're monitoring your email. We're making sure that we're monitoring users, right? So what are your users doing on a daily basis, a minute by minute basis? So the data center here is really our way of physically and cyberly securing our partners' environments.
I mean, there's so much going on in the world today. I mean, what are some of those threats and some of those threats that are evolving that people are facing?
You know, it's very interesting. About 5 years ago, threats were very high tech, right? The bad guys, the bad actors, as we call them in our industry, they would do things like deploy a piece of bad software to a machine, and we would be able to see it and be alerted to it being there. Now, do low-tech things, right? They do things like send you a link to your cell phone and steal your Microsoft token, right? And then they get in and they sit and they wait and they watch what people do. They watch.
A grief-stricken mother left to deal with the tragic death of her 3-year-old child. We hear from her as she seeks answers in her son's death.
Right now, I'm tracking showers lurking off the Atlantic coast. Could that be the key to our next round of rain? Your forecast at 4.
Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
Now, what happened, sir?
Well, I fixed the car and I towed it because it had no plates. So I towed it to her hotel and she didn't have all the money.
Don't speak.
I'm sorry.
Fox 5 News at 4 starts right now.
And happening right now, voters hit the polls to decide who will fill the vacancy in Congress left open by former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. We hear from the two men fighting to take her seat. And tragedy strikes a local community as 3 high schoolers are killed in a crash while on vacation in Florida. How they are being remembered this afternoon. But first, we begin with the deadly shooting of a 3-year-old child on Easter Sunday. This afternoon, we're hearing from the child's family as they seek answers. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for the news at 4. I'm Tyler Fingert, in for Christine Spiro. The 3-year-old